What's going on, everybody?
Hello.
Thanks for tuning in to, unfortunately, the final stream of this series. But it's been fun so far. Hopefully the last one will go out with a bang. And appreciate you guys, everybody being here. We're going to get started really soon. How's everybody doing tonight? We got
a lot of people
a lot of people
right
yeah.
now.
Let's see, we've got Sonic Babam, James McGilly, I hope I said your name right. Videos Gaming Videos, Walk Up, Josh Man, Williams Physical Media, Dean Gavitt, Josh Horn. Man, a lot of you tonight. Awesome.
Josh Horn. I knew a Josh Horn in high school. He was kind of an interesting guy.
So the next time I would potentially be able to make part 13, I'm going to have to get out a minimum of 12 reviews after this one. It's somewhere between 12 and 15. But even if I do, I probably wouldn't do a part 13 that soon after. It most likely, if I ever do this again, it's going to be years.
Years?
Mm-hmm.
Not even just like a year from now? Or...
Nah, I don't think so.
Wow, okay.
Because there's other things I want to do. I want to have more Mario Kart live streams and where you guys are playing with us. I was thinking about getting into other kind of Let's Plays again. So there's other stuff I'd like to do.
Okay.
Make sure this is... I'm going to turn this up a bit. Okay. Hopefully you guys can hear me a little better. I always have to adjust the mic settings during this because we're sharing a mic. But hopefully you guys can hear us, and we're going to start pretty soon.
Bolt Mouse is here, but
Mouse.
He says, I won't be able to join in with y'all today because I'm working. We made it to the end, though. It was fun watching FreQuency videos from the past to the present with all of you. Well, you have fun at work, Bolt Mouse.
Yep. I feel like I always schedule these when he's working, but, you know, it'd be impossible to align the schedules for everybody that works for everybody. So, appreciate you at least stopping by. Had a good day today. Actually, I wanted to get out Sonic Mania before we did this to have it like be the last one of the series. And I woke up at 5:30 in the morning and I had a stomach ache, and then I couldn't go back to sleep, and then I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna finish the review because I had voiced it the night before, but that's where I left it at, and I was going to edit it today, and I got it done a lot sooner than expected. So, okay, let's get started with Chex Quest HD. Here we go. It's time for the Chex Quest HD review for the Nintendo Switch. I was digging deep in the Switch's online catalog when I couldn't believe my eyes. Chex Quest on Switch? Could it be? I got it on sale for only $2, down from a whopping $5. How does it hold up to its cult classic counterpart? Let's find out. Some of you may know that the original Chex Quest on PC was the first FPS I ever played, and probably the first I ever saw. The story is about how evil aliens called Flemoids have invaded the planet of Bezoik and have imprisoned a squad from the Intergalactic Federation of Snacks. Make sure you eat a hearty breakfast because it's up to you to save them. The original Chex Quest had you playing as Chex Man. However, it seems they've given him a name and a squad of his own in this game. All the characters are based on pieces of Chex Mix, and you can choose any to play as, but they're basically the same except for how fast each one moves. Chex Quest is basically Doom with a different coat of paint, and this is the HD version. You'll run around each level finding new weapons and battling Flemoids, all the while trying to find the exit of the level. There are armor pickups, such as cans of repellent, Chex and Super Chex armor, as well as health variations, including glasses of water, bowls of fruit and vegetables, and the healthiest option, the Supercharged Breakfast. When your health is full, you won't be able to pick up bowls of fruits and vegetables, but glasses of water and the Supercharged Breakfast can increase your health over 100%. Same for the armor, in that regular Chex armor won't give you additional armor if you're already at 100, but repellent cans and the Super Chex armor will increase above the limit. The levels are similar, but they aren't a one-to-one rendition of the original game, and the layouts are different enough to notice if you played the original. I was disappointed at first, and perhaps that's my purist side talking, but I came to appreciate the differences. I played the heck out of the original when I was a kid, and knew basically every secret and path. Here, I had to find the new ones. It's not a bad thing, but if you're like me and expecting to know everything before you start, you won't. The weapons you use aren't really weapons at all. Because the Federation has concluded that conventional weapons don't affect Flemoids, they've reconfigured their Zorchers to transport the Flemoids back to their own dimension. Remember, since this is a family-friendly version of Doom, the Zorchers don't actually hurt
That sounds
the Flemoids,
weird.
but
Yeah.
they still act
Family-friendly
like the original
Doom.
weapons. Your stock Zorcher is like a handgun, there's a shotgun-like Zorcher, a rapid-fire Zorcher, which is basically the chain gun, and a few others. The funniest weapons are the spoon, which is like a punch, and the super boot spork, the equivalent to the chainsaw. The graphics look okay for a game that isn't taken too seriously. There were a few graphical glitches here and there, but it's kind of to be expected for a game like this. It may look like I'm terrible at the game, but it's because of how sensitive the controls are. You can adjust them with a slider, but when you move from here to here, the difference isn't subtle. You have to gently move the reticle in order to position your aim, but this isn't efficient when you're surrounded by Flemoids. Also, it doesn't help that the Zorcher will hit a wall if you're too close to it, even if it looks like you've got a clear sight. In the original game, because there weren't controls to adjust your aim, the Zorchers would auto-lock onto enemies even if they weren't directly in front of you. I almost prefer this cheap method to the aiming controls in this game. Throughout most of the short 5-level campaign, you'll notice that the Flemoid's AI needs some work. In the original, if you shot your Zorcher just once, all enemies in the room would start coming after you. Here, only the ones closest to you react, which is disappointing. Another disappointment was the HUD for your character. In the original, if you got slimed enough, your character's icon would change to reflect how much damage you've taken. Nothing changes in this game, though. It may sound trivial, but remember, I can't help but compare it to the original. If this was a standalone game, it wouldn't even be a
That
talking
added a lot
point,
of
and I feel like
charm
most
to the
people who
game.
play this are people who grew up with
It's kind
the
of sad
original
that they
like
didn't
me.
include it.
In addition to a name, the developers gave Chexman and all the characters personalities that are mediocre at best. They went heavy to appeal to a younger audience, but I feel like this was a mistake because, again, I'm pretty sure most people who would play this are only playing for nostalgia's sake. Your character will comment throughout, and I found myself turning off the comments only a few minutes into the first level. The awesome music and sound effects, however, were spot on and stayed true to the original. The HD version comes with 2 other modes, Versus and Co-op. Versus has you and up to 3 other friends duking it out and zorching each other in a 5-minute free-for-all. It's okay, but the levels need to be about 25% larger. Co-op mode is more fun as you and another defend yourselves against wave after wave of Flemoids. Remember when I said only the closest Flemoids react to you in the main campaign? Well, they need to take a lesson from the enemies in co-op mode as they will target you as soon as they spawn. The only real downside, and it's a big one, with co-op is that once you get farther into the waves, there's some serious slowdown with the frame rate, which made it almost unplayable. There's only one boss fight, and getting to it is fairly easy until you reach the final level. The difficulty spikes, and I found myself dying quite a bit. There was a glitch right here that was actually in my favor. This river of slime is supposed to damage me when I walk through it, but nope, it might as well be water. The one and only boss fight was probably the most disappointing thing in the game. In the original, it was a hectic fight with tons of enemies all around. Here, there's a small handful of grunts, and the boss itself was easier to take down than in the original. Chex Quest HD is a nice rendition of the original, but it's only for those who would like to experience an HD remake on the Switch. There are free mods out there that can turn the original into 4K, and free PC sequels are available now. This isn't a bad game, but if you want the best Chex Quest experience, skip this and play the free Superior Original. This game gets a 3 out of 5 with the title of Passable. Very nostalgic game for me. I think I replayed the original a year and a half ago, and actually I played through all 3. And the second and third games are really good too.
I remember there was it was a long time ago. It's like when you first discovered that the first game had sequels, and so you decided to download them, and like they started like, you know, like a Chex Quest game, but like as you went further and further into it, there were like more Doom enemies, and like just things straight ripped from Doom or Doom 2 or whatever. And it was just like really weird to see, like, oh, you're starting out with this family friendly, you know, game, and then you go into like killing demons and stuff. I don't know what happened. That maybe that ROM was just like an unfinished version.
Probably. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't like the official unofficial.
Yeah. So. Do you know who developed that game? That the remaster?
I'd have to research it. Let's see.
Team Chex Quest HD.
Flight School Studio.
Flight School. Okay, I've never heard.
Yep. Walk Up says, Freak, what are your thoughts on Keanu Reeves being cast as Shadow for Sonic 3? I am totally fine with it. I didn't really have too much of an opinion to begin with. I know a lot of people did, but now that it's confirmed as Keanu Reeves, I could see it. I think that's a good choice.
I've never played it, but I've watched a few hours of someone playing Cyberpunk, and that game has Keanu Reeves, and he seemed like he did a good job at like acting.
That's good
in it. Like he sounded pretty cool in it.
All right. Okay, let's get to the next one. Mercury Meltdown Revolution. It's time for the Mercury Meltdown Revolution review for the Wii. Besides Wii Sports, this was actually the very first Wii game I ever played. I remember renting it from the video store back when video stores were still a thing, but I can't really remember me playing it. Fast forward nearly 15 years and I'm playing it again, so let's see how it turned out. This is an arcade-style puzzle platformer. You take control of a Mercury blob, traversing different levels trying to get to the exit. Along the way, you'll solve mini-puzzles and open doors to help you advance. The whole gimmick is that you control the blob with motion controls via holding the Wiimote sideways and tilting it in different directions. The extra task besides finishing a level is seeing how many points you can rack up, and there are 3 ways to obtain points. Each stage contains bonus stars which give you 2,000 points apiece, how much Mercury you still have at the end can give you points, and finishing the level within a set time limit will give you points, relative to how much time is left on the clock. You can still finish a level if you run out of time, but you won't receive extra points. There are over 100 levels in the whole game, and each world of levels are represented by test tubes. There are 16 levels in each world, with a 17th bonus level available if you can do really well with the original 16. As I said earlier, most levels contain mini-puzzles that you have to solve in order to advance. Most of these puzzles are based on the color of your blob.
Like maybe 15 minutes worth.
This is Mercury Meltdown Revolution, right? And not de blob? Anyway, certain doors will hinder your progression unless you're the correct color. You can mix colors if you carefully split yourself up, and this is where the game can get confusing. If you know your color wheel, you'll know that red, yellow, and blue are the primary colors, and orange, green, and purple the secondaries. Whoa. Apparently, green and yellow have swapped in this game, making green primary and yellow secondary. Yeah, so I didn't realize at the time this was the light spectrum.
Yeah.
And I thought it was like, paint, because it's a blob of Mercury. So that's my bad. I didn't think about that. Orange and purple aren't even a thing, and instead we get cyan and pink. I don't really care what colors we
magenta,
get, but having green as a primary and yellow as a secondary can make things confusing, especially when you're trying to mix certain colors together while controlling multiple blobs at the same time. Various hazards and enemies can slow your progression, and you have to strategically maneuver around them as they won't go away. The floor can either help or hinder you, as ice panels can make you move faster, and rubber panels will slow you to a crawl. Sometimes I found that intentionally sacrificing a portion of yourself was the better method of completing a level, as the smaller you are, the faster you can move, but also you reduce your surface area, thereby decreasing the chances of your blob touching negative objects. Some levels make it so you're required to reach the exit with a minimum amount of Mercury left, or in fact all your Mercury still intact, which I liked as it increased the overall difficulty. However, there were some levels where there's very little room for error, which makes them frustrating to play. Good thing the bonus stars are not required, as there were many times where I didn't care enough to get them and just wanted to reach the exit. Sometimes passing all the bonus stars would still net you first place in the rankings, so really the bonus stars are just that, a bonus. The graphics are good for this type of game, and it reminded me of the style of humongous entertainment games like Spy Fox and Dry Cereal. The controls work just fine, although it was odd that the one button was used for selecting options
kind of
menu style, as I feel like you should use 2 for action commands and 1 for going back. One control gimmick I thought was pretty interesting was when you encounter this levitator, once it lifts you to the floating platform, the motion controls are reversed. To overcome this, I just turned the Wii remote 180 degrees, and when I returned to the surface, I turned it back. The camera can take some getting used to. You'll use 1 and 2 to zoom in and out, and the D-pad to change your vantage point, but again, the left and right buttons feel like they should be reversed. Some levels require you to be precise in where you position the camera, otherwise you'll easily die due to bad depth perception or objects blocking your view. Unfortunately, changing the camera on the fly makes controlling your blob difficult, and the end result could be you restarting the level. Also, when your blob was split into multiple pieces, the camera would sometimes focus on a seemingly random blob piece, making it difficult to almost impossible to complete what you're trying to do. The music seems to be all over the place, with piano pieces, metal, and EDM, and some of them just slap. You can unlock bonus skins for your Mercury blob, and in addition to main levels, there's a few mini-games to play which can be fun, but honestly, I really don't see me ever coming back to play them. Perhaps I'd be more inclined if they had multiplayer support.
That looks fun if it was multiplayer.
Seeing how high a score I can get with these games just doesn't appeal to me.
Curling?
Mercury Meltdown Revolution is a fun puzzle platformer. While the main campaign can have you puzzling for hours, the minigames aren't really worth it, and probably would have been more fun if multiple people could play it at the same time. It was possibly a good option for the Wii when it first released, but it doesn't really have any lasting appeal. While I probably won't be back to play it anytime soon, it's still a fun little game and I'm glad I picked it up. This game gets a 3.5 out of 5 with a title of good.
That example of the song that I did, the EDM.
Yeah.
I sometimes listen to that on my way to work.
Oh, really?
In the car.
It's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah. Mercury Meltdown could almost be a Spy Fox minigame like Happy Fun Sub.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool. If there were like maybe a fifth of the levels. There was like, what did I say, 100 or over 100? Something like that. Everybody's talking about movies. Toy Story.
Yeah,
they're making a Toy Story 5. Somebody said they should do a prequel to Toy Story. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. I'd rather have that, honestly.
Did it ever show how, what's the kid's name? Andy. Did it ever show how Andy got the Woody doll? Because it'd be kind of cool if the mom was the one who actually had Woody to begin with. Although they kind of did that in Toy Story 3 with the bear.
Yeah. I don't think it really showed how Andy got Woody.
Mark Hamill should have been Shadow. See, I really don't care, honestly.
I can't imagine that. That's no offense. That just seems like a really weird choice to me.
Could you not? You couldn't unhear Joker?
Well, I'm sure he would not do the Joker voice for Shadow. Mm-hmm. That would be really weird. But like his normal speaking voice just doesn't sound like Shadow to me. Mm. I always like the original voice for Shadow in SA2. That's my favorite one.
Mm. Yeah, same here.
I don't know the voice actor's name, but yeah, I think he was the best. It's in Sonic Adventure 2 and Sonic Heroes.
Yeah. Travelopolis. Heyo! Thanks for joining. Mark Hamill's way more than just a Joker.
Oh, yeah,
I know he does like hundreds.
He did Ozai's voice.
I feel like
in Avatar.
I feel like Joker is the most iconic for him.
Yeah, he did Ozai's voice in Avatar, which, like if he voiced Shadow, it'd probably be closer to that. But still, I don't know. To me, Shadow's just like this cool, you know. His voice needs to sound cool, you know. You know what I'm talking about? Like cool and
kind of
edgy, like not like
cringy, edgy.
Not like I'm the ultimate life form or anything like that. It's just like cool.
Yeah. Well, doesn't he say in one of the games? He says, "I'm the coolest."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Does anyone know what the next game hint is? I do.
I actually don't. I can't. I really don't know what it is.
All right, let's get to the next one. Zelda: Link's Awakening. It's time for the Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening review for the Nintendo Switch. Many of you may know Zelda is my favorite Nintendo franchise, and quite possibly my favorite game franchise of all time. However, that doesn't necessarily mean I've played every Zelda to date, and this game is a good example. Granted, I'm referring to the original on Game Boy. However, upon research, the Switch version is the same game with a handful of small gameplay differences, an HD upgrade, and a different coat of paint. Did Link have a wonderful dream, or a terrible nightmare? Let's find out. Seeing how A Link to the Past is my favorite 2D Zelda as of this review, it was exciting to play this direct sequel. As the game begins, we see Link battling a torrential storm in the middle of the ocean. After his ship gets torn to shreds, we see a young girl notice an unconscious Link washed up on the beach and takes him into her care. Upon waking, Link learns he is on Koholint Island and that monsters have recently shown up and are causing trouble, and being the hero that he is, Link decides to investigate. This is probably the shortest Zelda game I've played, but that doesn't mean you'll be able to finish it in a couple of hours, unless you're speedrunning. My first playthrough took me about 18 hours to finish, and I didn't complete everything. I feel like the most noticeable game design difference compared to many Zelda games is that getting to the next main area doesn't take much effort. In most Zelda games, you usually have to perform certain actions or travel to specific areas first before you can access the main location you're trying to get to. In Link's Awakening, this game element is still present, however, it's like a mini version. The majority of areas you need to get to require, let's say, a completed chore first, instead of a grander mission that could push the narrative. It's not a bad thing, and I understand the Game Boy version was quite limited in game space, but if you're expecting a list of tasks to perform before you can enter the next dungeon, it's not really this at all, and, dare I say, is kind of a breath of fresh air. Sometimes I just want to progress to the next area without having a laundry list of things I must complete first. I can't help but think of Twilight Princess and all the tasks you had to finish, areas to visit, NPCs to talk to before you could enter the main dungeons. Now, I'm not saying Twilight Princess's formula is a negative thing. The point is that this game doesn't have this mechanic to the same degree as other Zelda titles, and depending on what you like and or expect from a Zelda game, you might find that it's quite relaxed in what it requires from the player. One thing you might notice that plays into how fast it seems to take to beat the game is how easy the first few dungeons are. You don't have to have much, if any, experience from playing other Zelda games to notice the lack of challenge. Certain drops can make the game even easier, as in the case of the Piece of Power and Guardian Acorns, which double damage output and decrease damage taken by half respectively. They also boost your speed for a short time, and while they're fun to find, I feel like they shouldn't drop as often as they do. If they were about 50% rarer, it would have made it more special to find them. Of course, it's standard game design to ease the player at the beginning, but I feel like the overall difficulty could have been ramped up a bit. The majority of difficulty comes from trying to remember the dungeon layout until you get the map. Most rooms have a few minor enemies, with or without some sort of puzzle. I thought it was kind of cool to see that small keys can not only unlock doors to new rooms, but also remove giant blocks restricting access. This sometimes made it optional in which route you wanted to take, something I quite enjoyed. The most unique rooms were the ones where the game moved into a 2D side-scrolling perspective. Link can still use his items and weapons, and it's a nice little change from the top-down view.
The graphics are quite cute, and displays a charm that no other Zelda has. Link can only move in 8 directions, and this took me some getting used to, as you use the analog stick to move around, and the transition from moving in a cardinal direction to an intercardinal direction isn't exactly fluid. It doesn't cripple the player, but I can see how it might irritate some in the beginning until they get used to it. Using items is done with only the X and Y buttons, meaning you only have access to 2 items at a time. This was standard back in the day, but if you've never experienced a 2D Zelda like this, you might get annoyed by the inconvenience of having to open up your inventory every time you want to use a third item. Thankfully, the majority of the game doesn't require you to constantly switch out items, and some have passive effects, such as the flippers, allowing you to seamlessly transition from walking to swimming whenever you want. Most of the boss fights were quite easy, especially the recycled bosses from other games. Even the new ones weren't difficult to quickly figure out. Maybe there were complaints back in 1991 about how A Link to the Past was too difficult and they toned down the sequel. I don't know, I'm just guessing here. Point is, Link's Awakening probably has the easiest Zelda bosses I've ever faced. Even though much of the game doesn't have too much core challenge, I never really got bored, as there was quite a lot to do besides the main quest, something I highly appreciated and was kind of caught off guard given the small map size. Examples being fishing for the biggest lonker, get-rich-quick whitewater rafting, and testing your skill at this fun, yet sometimes infuriating crane game. Whatever! I totally had that! The most unique thing to do is a new addition the original game didn't have. Dompe from Ocarina of Time makes an appearance and lets you create and customize your own dungeons. This was such a cool feature, I first thought, but when I did it for myself, I disappointingly found out it's not a true custom builder, but more of a copy and paste builder. You can only use dungeon rooms you've previously explored, which is fine, I guess, but I see the problem that if you've already explored these rooms before, there's no real surprise, and once you enter, you'll usually know exactly what to do. Another flaw is there's no in-game online community to share your creations and play others. This is only accomplished via saving your dungeon to an amiibo, and it's just not worth the hassle. The whole idea of a Zelda dungeon creator is quite interesting to me, and while Dompe's attraction is a step in the right direction, I still feel disappointed in what we got. Perhaps one day we'll get what I really want. Link's Awakening offers a lot of fun and charm for such a small little guy. While there are high points of difficulty scattered throughout, the majority of the game doesn't have the same demands as most other Zelda titles. And I'm not just talking about the enemies, the puzzles that need solving, figuring out how to get from point A to point B, acquiring key items. Most of it is easy to figure out. It doesn't need to change. Well, maybe the lack of difficulty of the boss fights needs to, but overall, this is a great addition to the Zelda library and is a great contender for new gamers looking for a fun adventure. This game gets a 4 out of 5 with the title of Awesome.
Yeah, I would say, like, I have played the Link's Awakening DX on the 3DS. And I would say the Switch version it's like the better version. It's probably the best version you can play.
There were a lot of comments. I want to go back up.
Oh, sure.
Let's see. Alverno, I must have started watching around 2012 or 2013 when I was 9 or 10 years old, and now I'm pushing 21 and still watch no matter how many hiatuses are taken. Love your stuff, man. Appreciate that. You joined at a really low rate of videos, but I appreciate you sticking around. That's awesome.
A low rate, like as in
low upload rate.
Okay. Travelopolis. That's a name we haven't seen in chat before. I don't think. Favorite 2D Zelda? Oh, Link Between Worlds. Yeah, Link Between Worlds is fantastic. Definitely.
Really, really good. I can't help but say Link to the Past is slightly better. And maybe that's just my nostalgia talking, because that was the first Zelda I was ever introduced to.
I thought I saw a comment that was for me. Red, have you watched the live-action Netflix adaptation of Avatar? I have not. Personally, I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was so much better than the awful movie. Okay.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. I've only seen the cartoon. I've not seen the movie or the recent Netflix adaptation, and I personally I don't really see the reason why they needed to like make a live action remake. I mean,
it's called money.
Yeah, there's that, but like the cartoon is already like amazing.
Yeah,
I mean I kind of hate the notion that making a live action remake of an animated film or series or whatever is like supposed to be an upgrade, because that just kind of does a disservice to animation as a medium as a whole. I mean, like animation really should be like treated more seriously as an art form. You know, there's too many people who think that animation is just for kids or it's just for like silly little cartoons or whatever. But no, it's not. Animation can be such an amazing.
Even if it is for kids, that's no reason to poop on it.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I don't like those recent live action Disney remakes. It's like your animated films are already like so amazing. Making a live action remake is saying that these aren't as good. We can do better.
I think it's it's just like an HD remake of a game. You want to see how realistic you can get, and just gives a new perspective. But if you do for a movie a shot for shot remake, like wasn't Lion King shot for shot?
Almost, yeah.
Yeah. What's the point?
And that Lion King, that's not really even live action, because almost all of it is CG anyway.
Yeah.
It's just very realistic CG.
I just want to go on a tangent. Speaking of M. Night Shyamalan, I've got my 3 favorite movies from him right here: Science Village and Lady in the Water. And Lady in the Water especially got a lot of hate for it, but you have to have the right perception of what the movie is going into it.
Those are your 3 favorite of his movies?
Well, Science is my favorite. Now, I know...
What about Sixth Sense?
I like it, but not as much as these. And I also like Unbreakable.
Okay. I was going to say.
And Split is pretty good, too.
I like Split.
I have not seen the sequel, though.
Me neither. I've only seen the first one.
Yeah. But Signs, by far, is my favorite. Somebody said... Josh Mann says... Have I thought about reviewing the Switch version of Paper Mario 1000 Year Door? Yeah, I've thought about it, but I think I said last time or something like that I'm probably not going to... If I ever review it, it's not going to be soon. I'll just give you a spoiler alert right now. It's probably not going to be soon, because there's not much extra that I haven't already said in the original. Doesn't mean I won't, but there's so many other games I want to review first.
When I play it, if there is like some kind of hidden extra content, like added content that they include in the remake.
If there's another story, another chapter, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for real.
Then you would review it.
Yes, I would.
Okay.
But if it is like 99% the same, just up-resed, probably not anytime soon.
Okay.
Williams Physical Media, do I hear a dog? Not trying to be invasive. No, it's okay. That's actually my dog. He's outside barking right now.
What's his name?
His name is Bennett. We call him Mr. Bennett. Okay, let's get to the next one. Super Dungeon Maker. It's time for the Super Dungeon Maker review for the Nintendo Switch. The whole idea of a Zelda dungeon creator.
I love that sound effect. It's very nostalgic
for
for me.
Arthur. Attraction is a step in the right direction. I still feel disappointed in what we got. Perhaps one day we'll get what I really want. Well, let's see how it turned out. When you first begin, you're immediately dropped into a tutorial dungeon where you learn the basics of controlling Fink, the main character of the game.
Fink.
Upon exiting, you see that you're in a small village with other areas to explore and NPCs that can give you basic tips when building your own dungeon. There's also a dedicated
I love how
builder
bouncy
tutorial,
all
which
the
is only
animation
helpful to an
looks.
extent. Honestly, I had to watch YouTube tutorials to help better explain what tools the builder gives you. The first thing you might notice is just how large your dungeons can be. There are a handful of potential floors to use, and the size of each floor is quite huge.
Unless your goal is to force the player to spend a half hour on each floor, you won't be limited by how much physical space you can build. Unfortunately, the variety of items, objects, and enemies isn't the same. There's a small handful of each, and this is one of the most disappointing elements of the game. There needs to be at least 2 times the amount of usable and collectible items, at least 3 times the amount of different types of normal enemies, and a minimum of 2 more unique boss enemies would be helpful. Heck, I'd settle for at least 2 mini-bosses to choose from. Recycling the same enemies throughout a dungeon gets boring, and if you're familiar with Zelda bosses, you won't find much challenge or spectacle when facing these guys. You can choose a different theme for your dungeon, which is nice as many of the scenery aesthetic objects change to match the style, but unfortunately enemies don't. The dungeon I built here has various enemies that seem to be appropriate for a desert-themed dungeon, but having these same types in a castle or ice theme doesn't really fit. Also, only one theme can be chosen per dungeon. It would be great and increase the spectacle of your dungeons if you could change the theme per floor, but as of this review, you're only allowed one theme per level. The best thing about the game is the use of triggers. Here, you can set up puzzles for your players to interact with. Unlike the items and enemies, there's a good variety of different types of triggers to use, which can give you the potential to come up with many different combinations. There's 2 things, as of this review though, that needs to be available. 1, there's no function to have the objects or enemies appear after the player has defeated specific enemies except with bosses. Like here, I wanted a chest to appear after these enemies are defeated, but I can't set this up, so I instead had to settle for a floor trigger to make the chest appear. I can make objects appear after certain waves with bosses, but I should be able to accomplish this with normal enemies as well. And 2, like with bosses, there needs to be the ability to give sub-triggers to any object, enemy, or base triggers. So right here, I wanted the sequence of events to be that after the player defeats these 2 enemies, an object trigger would appear, and if the player interacts with it, a chest would appear. I guess I want a sequencer that can let me say, if this, then this, and if this, then this. Dungeon creation would be more fun and complex for the player if this was a reality, but unfortunately this is not the case. Don't get me wrong, there's quite a lot of different scenarios and combinations you can create that can challenge the player, but it can begin to feel stale due to the lack of variety of objects, items, and enemies, as well as the limitation of the triggering sequence available. Another gripe is how the player completes the level. Well, actually, it's not how they complete it, it's where they complete it. The goal of every dungeon is to find the golden egg. The problem is the location of the egg. It must stay on the first floor. Once the player knows this, the level of spectacle in searching for it diminishes, since they ultimately know it's always on the first floor. The player may not know how to reach it immediately, but the fact that you can't move it to different floors is just really odd and annoying. Now, I know I've basically been negative throughout most of this review, but I assure you that the game is fun if you're into creating your own levels. I understand this might not be for everyone, but if you enjoy sandbox creation games, you should enjoy this one too. It's funny because I don't usually like sandbox games, but I've always been interested in level design, and this game is a good first step in understanding how to create them and what makes a level challenging yet enjoyable. You'll definitely want another person playing your level so you can understand their perspective. I had Lizzie and Red play this level separately, and it was interesting to see the differences in playstyle. Lizzie doesn't have much practice with top-down adventure games, while Red is highly experienced. They both gave me opportunities to understand their different playstyles, which in turn helped me edit certain elements and areas so that both newcomers and gaming veterans could enjoy the level. The graphics and controls are very well done. The animations for Fink are fluid, however my brother and I noticed the screen would slightly shake when combating enemies, which was annoying and it couldn't be turned off. There's also quite a few glitches here and there, one being sometimes the text from an item's description won't go away when you test your level, forcing you to save and exit then come back if you want it gone. Another was in the Hall of Fame area.
Stuff like that is really annoying to me when playing games.
Place to show off. Thing is, once you enter this place, you can't get back out, and yes, you have to restart the game. The small amount of content and the glitches that take place just makes me feel like the game is in a late beta mode, and perhaps shouldn't have been released without at least fixing the glitches first. The controls take some getting used to. You use a pointer for everything while in build mode, and this is just not the way the game should be played, at least on a console. I understand it was originally a PC game, but if you're going to put it on a console, the controls need to be optimized for console play. It needs to have a similar design to that of Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 on Switch, where in order to access menus, you need to first hold down a button to highlight all the menu options, then make your selections with the analog stick or D-pad. A huge miss is the fact that the Switch version doesn't have touchscreen controls. That should be a given. Once you're satisfied with your level, you can upload it to a server for others to enjoy, and you can play other dungeons
Mario
as
Maker
well.
2 had
Unlike
touchscreen
Super Mario
controls,
Maker,
right?
there aren't any checks and balances to make sure players can actually beat the dungeon, or at the very least, complete the level without any major errors, like right here. You can send a message to the devs about the level, which, I don't know if it helps, but it's there if you decide to use it. Super Dungeon...
Hold on. I got some comments saying that, feedback really does help the developers. I understand that, of course. I was saying
the
more
developers
like,
of the game or developers of the level?
I'm saying feedback in general helps developers.
Oh,
improve
okay,
their
yeah.
game. What I was saying was, I don't know if it helps. I'm saying I don't know if the developers are listening to the feedback that I am giving. Because I don't think I've seen an update for it yet. I haven't played this game since I reviewed it, and I feel like I would if they gave it a healthy dose of updates.
Dungeon Maker feels like a great step in the right direction for the game that it is, but it overall just feels unfinished. It has great potential, but in order to get there, in my opinion, 3 things need to happen. 1, there needs to be more objects, items, and enemies to increase variety and help make the building process not feel stale. 2, the usage of sub-triggers on any interactable asset would greatly increase the complexity of building dungeons and can help increase overall enjoyment of gameplay for both the builder and the player. And 3, the controls need to be optimized for console play. While using the analog stick for everything isn't terrible, it just doesn't feel right, and especially for the Switch, touchscreen controls is almost a necessity. Overall, it's still a fun dungeon creator that can be especially beneficial to those who are interested in learning about level design. The game states at the beginning that the devs are constantly working on improvements, which is good, and the potential to be a great dungeon builder is there, but as of right now, it's just okay. This game gets a 3 out of 5 with the title of passable.
Did you put those, that was your level, right?
Yeah.
Did you put those little cacti right there so that they could block the lasers?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Viddies, would you ever develop your own Game Freak? I absolutely would if I had the discipline to learn a game language. I have started and stopped multiple times because it's intense, and with everything else I have going on in my life, it's hard to dedicate time to learn that. I would have to go on another review hiatus for me to do that, and I don't want to do that. I think you guys don't want that either. But yes, I would definitely like to do my own game someday. Oh, I've not even tried RPG Maker. I have RPG Maker on Steam. Or is it Super RPG Maker? I have one of them. It was on deal. I got it for like $30, and it came with all this DLC that if you bought it at normal price, it was like $130. So I got $100 off.
Wow.
It was during their Steam summer sale one year, and I spent a lot of hours on it. But if you don't know JavaScript, you're very limited in what you can do. And I looked up tutorials on YouTube, and there was this guy who did a very nice, thorough job of explaining how things work with the RPG Maker. And he stopped at like episode 30 and didn't continue. And I was really getting into it. I was like, oh man, please make more. You're like the best instructor for this. And he never did.
He just stopped?
Yeah, he just stopped. Yeah.
That's too bad.
I know. And it wasn't even he didn't get into JavaScript. He was explaining how all the functional tools work, and not only how they work, but also why they wouldn't work in certain situations. That's what I need from an instructor. Tell me why it works, but also tell me why it doesn't work in certain situations. That's the best way for me to learn programming language.
Dean Gavitt says he only just played Portal just a few months ago. Extremely late to the party. Oh, man.
Well, he saved a slice of cake for you.
Yeah. Didn't you play Portal, pretty much when it came out?
maybe like a year or so. I remember seeing the demo for it, and it wasn't even like the actual game engine for it, but it was a concept video for it.
Oh.
And I saw that in high school, and it was just like 10 seconds or something. There was like a gap with fire on the floor, and you had to get across the other side. And I didn't know what I was watching at first, but then the character shoots the portal gun to the other side, and then over here, and just walks through it. And it blew my freaking mind. It was so cool. But yeah, I got it about a year later, and this was during the dinosaur era of internet. So it took, I'm not kidding, it took like 30 hours to download from Steam.
Download the demo?
No, the full game.
I thought you got a physical.
It was like the license for the game. You still had to download it on Steam.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I swear it took like 30 hours. And we only had
Dang.
one computer back then, and Mom liked to play roller coaster on it at the time. And I made a custom background in Paint. It says, "Do not touch the computer to anybody," because one little hiccup would stall the whole thing and I had to restart. It was awful. But once it finally downloaded, I played it. It was awesome. Yes, I'm not kidding, about 30 hours. And when I started making reviews and uploading Brawl and Sonic Secret Rings, I tried to do it from our house, and Brawl was like, 3 minutes, right?
Yeah,
3.5 minutes, something like that. It was going to take 12 hours to upload for like a 3.5 minute 480p video. And that's when I learned, I can just go to Dad's school or the local community college.
Watching YouTube videos with that internet was such a pain because like you would it would have to buffer. It would buffer like a few seconds for like it would take like about a minute to buffer just a few seconds of footage.
Yeah,
and so
awful.
I got into this habit when watching YouTube videos where I just like pull up Solitaire and just play a game of Solitaire while it was buffering.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was so pathetic.
Yeah, it was bad. It was really, really bad.
Just like buffer a few seconds, and then it watch a few seconds, and then go back like a second, play some Solitaire, wait a few minutes, and then watch a few more seconds over and over and over again. It was so pathetic.
Travelopolis, geez, it probably wasn't even a gigabyte? No. Gigabyte didn't even exist in the country back then, I don't think. And, because I know that, I'm pretty sure this is right, that Chattanooga, Tennessee was the first city in America to receive gig internet. And, I think that happened in 2010 or something, and this was before 2010, so no chance of getting gigabyte internet. And we had wireless, which was just slightly faster than dial-up. It was awful. You should, if you want to know the download and upload rate, go watch my Mario Strikers Charged video to get an idea.
Yeah, it has like an
I do a speed test.
Speed test, yeah.
Nick Ray, thanks for joining. No
Welcome.
problem being late.
Why, magical chicken? Why?
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
All right. Well, let's
get to the portal. Here we go. It's time for the Portal review for the Nintendo Switch. I remember watching the first teaser trailer for this game back in 2006 when I was a junior in high school, and my reaction was something like, "Whoa." I got the game a few years later on PC, and seeing this on a Nintendo console is quite surreal. Is this Switch portal worth it? Let's find out. We begin by waking up as an unknown character in a small locked room with a robotic voice greeting you. Once the door opens, you find that you're in a testing facility and that you must make your way through using provided portals. After completing a few chambers, you acquire a portal gun which lets you create portals yourself so long as the surface area of where you're firing will allow portals to be created.
As you progress through,
Have you
the
shown
test
Mom and
chambers
Dad this
become
game?
more advanced and complex, and will force you to think strategically.
I
You
think
must
Mom
with
saw it a
portals.
little bit
The
when
gun can only
I
create
got
one
it
portal, but
on
each
the computer,
opening,
but I
represented
don't
by a
think she
blue or orange
remembered,
outline,
honestly.
can of course be in two separate areas.
My dad'd
so
be
it
like,
looks like two
"It's just
portals
like
can be
Myst."
active
Yeah.
at once. One of the tricks is that you have to remember which portal to shoot, blue or orange, based on the portal you just entered. If it's your first time playing, it can honestly take some getting used to remembering which portal you need to shoot next, because shooting the wrong one can mess up your plans or even kill you.
Why'd
Some
you do
chambers
that?
have deadly
'Cause I'm
turrets waiting
dumb.
for you, but if you know how to maneuver around them, they won't bite. Other chambers have sludgy water below that will kill you if you take a wrong step. The punishment for dying isn't that severe, as the game will just reload your last save point, which is usually the beginning of a chamber, or sometimes right where you left off. Be careful though, as when your character reloads, they might have a bit of forward momentum right at the edge of a cliff, which will send you off before you even have time to react. This couldn't have been intentionally programmed, so unfortunately you might have to deal with it. There are 19 chambers, and each one on average should only take you a few minutes to
That
complete.
puzzle is really
To
fun.
avoid
Yeah.
spoilers for those who haven't played it, I'll just say something goes wrong along the way and your character is forced outside of the test chambers, and your goal is to find a way out using the portal gun, and this is where the game gets quite fun. Throughout the entirety, the robotic voice talks to you and can be quite humorous in between its mysteriousness.
As part of a required test protocol, we will stop enhancing the truth in 3, 2,
The turrets are also funny.
Target lost. Self-test error. I don't hate you.
These personalities greatly enhance
so
the overall
adorable.
charm of the game. The graphics look just as good as they did on PC. Perhaps by today's standards it's not up to par, but who really cares? The controls are pretty standard, but customization is allowed, which was appreciated. The only major flaw of the game I found was the load times. I remember when I played this on PC, there would be some longish load times, but nothing too bad. The Switch version, however, has several load points where I thought the game crashed because of how long it took to load the next area. Seriously, this one right here took 52 seconds with no indication that progress was being made, and I almost restarted the game, but it loaded up at the last second. There were other points of long loading times sprinkled throughout, which unfortunately just removes the player from the immersion. A minor flaw was that the frame rate would hiccup every now and then, but this was usually due to the game loading the next areas. I remember the PC version being like this, and it's just odd that Valve didn't iron out these issues of a game released at the time of this review 16 years ago. The game is quite
This game
short.
is 16
It'll only
years
take you
old.
around
Oh,
2
man.
hours to beat, but this is a great example of quality over quantity. There are quite a few bonus test chambers you can play with custom goals you can set, such as the number of steps you take or how many portals you create. Various achievements are available as you play through, and there's also developer commentary in each level, which is a nice addition. The Switch version is a part of a bundle pack that also
Do you
includes
remember
Portal
any of
2,
that
and
commentary?
at a base price of only $20
I think
for
they were
both,
just
it's
talking
definitely
about
worth it, and
their
even
thought
more so if
process
you can
of
get it on
designing
sale.
each level.
It's still really cool to me that it's even available on a Nintendo console, and besides the long loading times between various test chambers, it's a good port of a very unique and fun game. This game gets a 4.25 out of 5 with the title of Awesome.
we...
Oh yeah, this game.
It was fun making the live scene for Team Sonic Racing.
Oh yes, I remember this. Yeah, I remember that
Yeah.
scene. That was fun.
Vinny says, okay, I don't mind what system it is. You have to review Myst at some point. You know
Yeah.
what? I'm kind of feeling the same way. I feel like it's a shame it's not on Switch. This whole time Switch has been out, it's not for Switch. Even just a crappy port,
There,
I would play it.
yeah, there's like a remastered version on Steam.
Yeah.
Yeah, our parents
Yeah,
played that.
I have it.
Oh, you do?
I have all 5 Myst games on Steam. I'm surprised too, considering they are trying to compete with the Switch with the Steam Deck.
Oh yeah.
What's your
Well-
thoughts on the Steam Deck?
I probably would not get it because I already have a pretty decent PC and I already have a Switch. And the Steam Deck just seems like it's like if you don't have either of those, then you should get that.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, who is it marketed to? It's got to be gamers who their job is to travel a lot.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's got to be pretty niche, I would guess. Okay, let's get to the next one. Team Sonic Racing. It's time for the Team Sonic Racing review for the Nintendo Switch. This game was created by the same developers who made Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, which I quite enjoyed. As of this review, I haven't played its sequel, but I was ready again to rev up those engines because I am one hungry racer. Did this game take home first place, or was it left in the dust? Let's find out. There's actually a story in the main campaign, but honestly, you're not missing anything by me skipping it in this video. Perhaps the only thing I'll say is that the character's dialogue is definitely geared towards a younger audience. To everyone else, no. The main point of each race is, of course, to try to get first place. Don't Not even despair gonna if you describe can't it. get the gold. Teamwork is the name of this game, as the title implies. As you begin, you'll get to choose which character you want to race as within Team Sonic. As you race, you can receive help from your teammates or be of assistance to them. If you're lagging behind, you can ask for one of your teammates to send you their item if they're currently holding one. If you spin out due to getting hit, a teammate can pass right next to you, thereby giving you a huge boost of speed, allowing you to get back into the race quickly. One of the best team mechanics is whichever team character is ahead of the other two, they'll leave a yellow slipstream behind them that their teammates can use to increase their top speed as long as they stay in it. If they stay long enough, they can build up a boost gauge which gives them even more speed once they exit the slipstream. The items are basically Mario Kart items.
That
with
looks
different
like
paint
exactly
jobs,
like
but unless
Waluigi
you've at least
Pinball.
played Sonic Colors, you probably won't know what each one does until you've used them often enough. Sending or receiving an item from a teammate, or basically helping them in any way, using an item successfully and performing tricks off of jumps will increase your team ultimate gauge. When activated, you and your teammates will speed up and be invincible for a short time. At the end of each race, each character's individual scores will be added to their overall team score, and the team with the most points wins. So even if you struggle in one race, your teammates could potentially carry you to victory. However, the same is true for them dragging you down. You could be ahead of everyone and take first place, but if your teammates are duds, you'll suffer with them, and unfortunately, this seemed to be the case more often than not. If I did really well, my teammates
Wow,
were usually
Knuckles.
mediocre Right? at
Look at
best,
him.
if not trash. If I was garbage, they hardly ever helped, and we'd be stuck in Loserville, and if you are determined to play on a higher difficulty, it could take you some time to be the overall winner. Speaking of, this is probably the most difficult racer I've ever played. There's a huge spike in the AI between easy and hard difficulty. Expert is, well, nearly impossible if you haven't mastered each course and upgraded your car to its best potential. Also, even if you deck your vehicle out with the highest speed stats, it didn't seem to matter too much, as technique and power characters, like Tails and Knuckles respectively, often kept up or even drove faster than you. This only happened on hard and expert difficulty, but the point is it shouldn't happen. Collected rings increases your top speed, but I highly doubt the opposing racers had enough rings to constantly stay ahead or pass me. There are many straightaways in the courses where you'd think speed characters would come out on top, but too often other character types would instead, especially with Big the Cat for some reason. Upgrading your vehicle is fun, and obtaining parts is done via a gacha game. Every time you race, you'll be rewarded with points you can use to play in the hopes of gaining new parts. There's quite a handful of customizable pieces for different sections of each character's vehicle, and mix and matching to find your favorite car
I like
is fun
this
and
song.
interesting. You can also customize the look and sound of vinyls, horn sounds, and paint. Even the texture of the paint is customizable. Each course looks fantastic. So much detail and spectacle, particularly on the casino tracks. Most courses are designed with no real unbalance that would favor the AI instead of the player, but the casino tracks are a little too narrow and its sections can get easily congested. Even when you've played the courses multiple times and know the twists and turns, you could still sometimes get bogged down with the other racers. As I mentioned earlier, the character dialogue is, well, cringe. It's so cringe. I don't understand it. It's this weird juxtaposition where the story and dialogue are meant for kids, but the gameplay is very difficult. There's nothing wrong with a game geared towards a younger crowd, but the gameplay needs to be consistent for that crowd, or vice versa. If it's meant for older gamers, then the story and voice acting is a superfluous attack on our ears.
Bottom line, just skip it. Now the music, on the other hand,
Ooh.
is the complete opposite. There are some great compositions heard throughout, and many of which are remixes of past Sonic games. Actually, the best song in the game is hidden in the mods menu. It's an awesome remix of the main theme, Greenlight Ride. It's great that Crush 40 is back, and their original is really good, but this remix from the Chemist just hits different.
My long hair.
I tried
That was
playing
so fun.
it on
Yeah.
multiplayer, but either the servers are down or no one plays it, because after trying for a long time, no one showed up. I won't take away points because of this, but it's too bad I couldn't experience it. There are a few minigame modes you can play that all involve a time limit, such as passing next to dual-colored poles to receive points, obtaining as many rings as you can, or destroying targets on the track. Some of them are just brutal in their difficulty, and you'll need to be near perfect to obtain the highest rating possible. This Sonic and Friends and Enemies racer is a fun one, but its difficulty spike is surprising and unfortunate. I don't mind a good challenge, but having to constantly restart a race or Grand Prix because the opposing AI makes nearly no mistakes, or because your teammates don't know how to drive, or sometimes both, isn't exactly fun. The courses are well designed and aesthetically exciting, the mods and customizable options for your vehicles are really nice, and the music is excellent. And even though the difficulty can seem too high at times, it's not impossible and feels great when you and your team work well together, especially when your teammates are your friends and not the crippling AI. I wish there were more courses, but the lack of quantity is made up for the quality, and overall, it's a fun, unique racer. This game gets a 4 out of 5 with the title of Awesome. Merry Christmas!
Oh, yes. I'm gonna have you talk to the crowd. I gotta take a phone call, so I will be right back.
Okay, let's. All right, guys. Do you have questions for me? Let me read all your fan mail here. Let's move this a little. Okay. Sonic Frontiers does have a better story because of the fact it was done by the writer of the Archie IDW comics, Ian Flynn. He's a very talented writer for the Sonic comics. Yeah, I have heard he did write that. I've heard pretty good things about that story. Although I haven't played the game, but what I've heard is that story is basically it's like everyone kind of referencing all the things that they did before, like Sonic, do you remember that one time we did this? Or wow, that was crazy what just happened. It reminded me of this other thing that we did in this past game, and it's just like references, which, I mean, it's kind of nice, especially like if you're a Sonic fan and you just like that fan service, but that does seem a little bit cringy, I guess. I don't know. I really do like Crush 40. Crush 40 is easily one of the top best music composers for the Sonic series. Hard agree. That is very true. I'm trying to remember. Did Crush 40 also do? No, they didn't do Sonic Riders music. Sonic Riders music is really good, but yeah, Crush 40 is just amazing. I love their music in the Sonic games. Let's see. How much time has it been since you died in a review, Red? It's been a while, hasn't it? Maybe we should bring that back. Just I don't know. We'd have to really, because I don't want to just bring it back as like, oh, let's just do it. You know, I'd want it to be funny. Like I'd want it to be like a well-written joke, I guess. Red, what is the main reason FreQuency does not want to go on another hiatus? Wait, why he does not want to go on another? If I had to guess, I guess he just kind of found his passion again. His passion for writing reviews and stuff. He, I don't know. I mean, if he's going to take another hiatus, it's probably when he gets burned out. What's my favorite Sonic game? I probably...
Scooch.
I want to say Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. I don't think it's like objectively the best Sonic game, but it holds a very special place in my heart. There's a lot of problems with it. It's not a perfect game, but man, it's fun. It's so much fun, especially when you like master the controls and everything. Why did I delete my compilation video on my channel? Because I was what's the word? I wasn't upset. That's not the right word. I was what's the word? I just didn't like how all the footage did not include any of the context for the scenes. So it just felt really awkward, I guess. I deleted that a long time ago. So I might have had other reasons why I did that, but that was like the main reason. It's just it just doesn't have any of the context. So if you're watching if you're watching you don't know anything about his videos or his reviews, then it's just really it just looks very strange.
Yeah, you could say it's interpretive art.
Yeah, I guess. If you like watch all of it as thinking it's like one continuous like storyline, that
bizarre.
Yeah, it's super bizarre.
What's up, Mr. Toad? Thanks for joining.
What did you think when your brother first told you he was going to become a YouTuber?
Was that like 15 years ago or something like that?
Well, becoming a YouTuber, that wasn't really a thing. That's not the kind of mindset you had back then.
No.
Back in the old YouTube days, when you wanted to upload something, that's just kind of it. It's like, oh, I have an idea that, like, I'm just gonna upload this video, and I have a good idea for a YouTube video. I'm gonna upload it, and maybe people will like it. Like the term becoming a YouTuber, that has like so many connotations nowadays. It's like, this is like your career. This is like your full-time hobby or whatever. No, when you upload a video, it's like, I'm just gonna do this, and hopefully people will like it. You know.
Yeah.
When he first uploaded his like first videos, that was like, what you uploaded your like top 5 electronic songs, your celebrity caricature,
the pre-review videos.
Yeah, you like uploaded. It was just like a PowerPoint presentation of like celebrity caricatures like that.
It wasn't even my video. I just found it and
really.
Yeah.
That was like a re-upload?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think one of our uncles sent it to us.
Oh, really?
And I was like, oh, this is funny. Here you go, world. Yep.
When he first started uploading review, like game reviews, I thought that was like super cool.
Yeah, the only, like, I'll say amateur game reviewers we knew of was WeViewer.
Yeah.
That was about it, and we would sometimes watch Screw Attack Top 10 kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That was it, and I had no ambition to be, like, professional or anything. I don't think of myself as professional still. I think it's just a hobby of mine I like to do. But, yeah, I never was like, I'm going to make money at this. I remember getting my first check from Google, though, and it was just, all of a sudden I looked at my bank account. Hey, what's that? It was like $100 in there. I was like, holy cow, that was awesome.
Yep. WeViewer uploaded again today. I have not watched WeViewer in a long time. I know I've told you before, but the reason why I stopped watching WeViewer was because he like included his kids in his reviews. And like when he started doing that, that was like a long time ago when his kids were really young, and it was just like before when it was just him, he would like write out a script for his video, but when he included his kids, it was just like them having like a conversation back and forth about it, like unscripted.
Oh.
And it was just like, I'm not interested in this. I don't care about this kid's perspective on the game. This kid is like 7 years old. You know, I mean, it sounds harsh, but like, I don't know.
It's
I'm like, at the time I was like an older teenager or a young adult. Like I don't really care about this kid's perspective.
You were not the demographic.
Mm-hmm.
He has his own demographic, and I'm sure there are parents who like to.
That's true. Yeah.
Who like to hear that perspective from a young kid.
That's true. And like I'm sure it was very. It must have been like very fun for him to be a part for his kid to be like a part of his hobby. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that must have been like really fun for him, and like all power to him or whatever.
Yeah.
But like I just couldn't really stand it anymore.
We'll get to the next video. I did want to answer one question. Nick Ray, how long does it take to make a review? Well, it depends on the length of the game, but not including the time to capture footage. The actual technical side of it, it can take somewhere between, I'd say, 4 and 10 hours. It just depends on how long the review is.
Still, come on, what's wrong with the 7-year-old enjoying Mario Galaxy? I never said there's nothing wrong with him enjoying the game. I'm saying that I personally don't I don't care about this about a kid's perspective on the game.
Yeah.
I don't. That's not what I'm watching a video for.
Okay. All right.
Oh, you kid. He knows what I mean. Okay.
Okay. All right. Here we go. First PS2.
Yeah.
review.
It's time for the frequency review for the PS2. Yes, this is the first PS2 game I've ever reviewed, and if it wasn't obvious, yes, this is the game that inspired my YouTube alias. What made this game so special I would dedicate a pseudonym to it? Let's find out. The year was 2002.
Do not
I was
attempt.
13 years old and headed over to my friend's house with the intention of playing Super Smash Bros. On the N64. Instead, they pull out a PS2 demo disc containing various games to try out. One of these was
what the heck?
Frequency, and
I looked at the
needless to
camera
say,
there.
I was
You did?
completely
I did.
on the N13
Okay.
Why did I do that?
headed over to my friend's
There's so much dust on the lens. I
Yeah.
didn't clean
Super
it.
Smash Brothers on the N64. Instead, they pull out a PS2 demo disc containing various games
Right
to
here.
try
Oh,
out.
look at that. Why did I look at the camera? No!
Needless to say, I was completely hooked.
Whatever.
I had never seen such a game before. Rhythm game? What's that? Almost every time I went back to their house after, I would request to play Frequency. Fast forward to 2005, I purchased a used PS2 and a copy of the full game. It was one of the best gaming decisions of my life. Think of Frequency as the great-grandfather of today's rhythm games. Without it, or its developer Harmonix, we probably wouldn't have Guitar Hero or Rock Band. After you choose a pre-existing or custom avatar for yourself, you'll only be able to play the first stage of songs. I have them all unlocked here, but if it's your first time playing, you'll need to beat each song to move on to the next stages. Also, some songs can only be played on normal and expert difficulties respectively. It's not like it is today where rhythm games allow you to play any song on any difficulty setting, and this is kind of a bummer. If you're not great at the game, you might not ever get to experience the final stage of songs, where arguably some of the best are located. When you begin a song, you'll travel through a tunnel, so to speak, which is broken up into cells represented on the right side of the screen, and the surrounding tunnel walls represent a specific track of the song. Depending on the song, the tracks can consist of drums, bass, guitar, synth, vocals, and effects. As you focus on a track, you'll need to play the notes represented by blue gems. Successfully playing all the track notes for 2 bars worth of the song will secure that track for the remainder of the time you're within the respective cell, which means that the track will play itself and you're able to move on to a different track. If you're able to complete all tracks in a cell, you'll be rewarded with freestyle tracks in the form of a disc scratch or added synth. Playing these will net you a minimum amount of points, but it's cool to create a mini remix during sections of the song. If you do well enough, the leading tunnel cells will open up, showcasing that most, if not all, the tracks will autoplay themselves, and all you get to do is play the freestyle tracks. I'm split on whether or not I like this. If you're trying to complete the song for the first time, then yes, it really helps achieve this, and it's also a nice bonus from the game basically saying you're doing really well, so you can just sit back and relax. However, if you're trying to get a higher score, it's quite difficult to achieve this, since playing the actual tracks nets more points than playing the freestyle tracks. Each track of every song only ever has 3 different gem locations, left, middle, and right. You'll need to line up the gems to your cursor and play them at the correct times using the L1, R1, and R2 shoulder buttons. You can also use the square, triangle, and circle face buttons too, but this is not recommended for high difficulty songs. Some of the gem combinations can get crazy, and using the shoulder buttons is basically needed in order to win. There are rare occasions where using a combination of the shoulder and face buttons can be advantageous though, such as a long straight line of fast-scrolling gems. There's not much room for error when playing the gems, as the game gives very little slack if you're not dead on with your timing. You could swear you hit the gems at the right time, but it wasn't close enough. If you're playing the game on a widescreen TV, it could be that there's some input latency, and if that's the case, you're out of luck since the game does not have any calibration options. It was developed in 2001, in a time where CRT monitors were the norm. The TV I used to capture this footage is a widescreen, but it's an older model that was manufactured in 2011, and it sure isn't a smart TV, but it works for the most part with very little to no latency input. A couple of power-ups are available to help you out. The auto catcher will let you essentially skip a track by activating it on command, and the multiplier will increase your score multiplier past its normal max limit. When you're first starting out, the multipliers are your best friend because you need to achieve a combined score within a stage of songs to unlock the rest. The list of songs available are honestly from groups and artists that I had never heard of before when I first played, and some are still quite obscure even to this day. That doesn't mean the songs aren't fun to play or good to listen to, but unless you're a music enthusiast, especially during the turn of the century, you probably won't recognize most of these songs or artists today. It's not surprising since music licensing is expensive, and for a proof-of-concept game like this, I can see why the list we got is the way it is. As I said though, it's not a bad thing, as some of these songs are
That's the
still on my
most difficult
personal playlist
song
today.
in the game.
A good handful of these songs are
Oh,
variations
that's the,
of EDM,
that's
and
End of
there's
Your
also
World.
rock,
Yeah.
heavy metal, and hip-hop. The graphics and aesthetics fit the theme of the
I can
game.
beat it like maybe
The one major
5%
problem I
of the
have,
time.
though, is
Man.
that the gems aren't pronounced enough and can be difficult to see when the background has similar colors and patterns, and this can be especially true if the tunnel you play in has any curves to it. One cool feature is that you can play a track even if you're not dead center on it. Sometimes coming up on the preceding cell tunnel could be tricky, in that unless you've memorized all the patterns and available tracks, you can't tell which tracks would be live until it's too late and your consistency would break. However, if you're fast enough, you can press in the direction you need to access the track enough times and begin playing the gems, even if you're not yet centered. Pulling this off when the notes are essentially mirrored feels great, and
nice.
it's so cool when it happens. One thing I didn't really like was that many of the songs, especially on higher difficulties, would start you out with one track, and in order to unlock the next tracks, you had to play the one you had perfectly. Not a huge demand, but the problem is, once the next tracks are unlocked, you won't know what the gem patterns will be, and you'll often have to sacrifice a minimum of 1 bar of gems. Now, restarting the song over and over will eventually help you memorize what is about to come up, but it would be better if there were 2 available tracks at the start of the song, and completing the first track would unlock the third, the second unlocks the fourth, and so on. There's an option to create an entire remixed song from any of the selections. The controls for doing so can take some getting used to, as you can't control the speed of the song while you're editing, but having this option is pretty cool nonetheless. In multiplayer mode, you and up to 3 others battle it out by using power-ups to mess each other up, and whoever has the highest score at the end wins. The first time playing this mode threw me off, since completing only 1 bar of gems will net you points, but it won't activate the track, and you can just continue playing it over and over. While it plays a bit differently than the main campaign, it's still fun and is a nice addition. FreQuency has such a special place in my gaming heart. It introduced me to one of my favorite gaming genres and broadened my scope of EDM songs, a win-win. While the difficulty can be brutal at times, the gems can get lost in the graphics, and keeping your streak alive during a song could be borderline unfair due to the player having to unlock tracks
That was a
and
good.
play them perfectly.
That was really good.
It's still a fantastic rhythm game, and one that has brought me hundreds of hours of joy. This game gets a 4 out of 5 with the title of Awesome. Happy New Year!
honestly, that was a really good review. You can tell that you knew a lot about the game. Like, you went in depth with like lots of different aspects about the game. Which, I mean, you'd hope so, since you've been playing that game for like what, over 20 years.
Oh no, it can't be that long.
Oh
no.
Well, right.
I think I got the game in 2008.
That late? I thought you.
I've played it at a friend's house, but I didn't get it until then.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I mean, you talked about like how the
Or no, you're right. I got it in like 2006 or something like
yeah, like for example, you talked about how the when starting the song, the tracks would be invisible, and like they would only appear as soon as you finished, the first track, and then you'd have to go over, and you wouldn't have enough time to react. That stuff, like the notes blending into the background, how songs are locked behind difficulty level, like that. I don't know. I just appreciate how well in depth you are with the game.
Oh, well, thank you. So you like deep analytical
Yes.
reviews, not tip of the iceberg. IGN against.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not every. I understand not every game can be like that, because you haven't spent as much time with other games as you have with Frequency.
Right.
But I don't know, especially for like really obscure games like this. Like, I'm sure there are very few videos out there that go that in depth with Frequency as you do.
Never.
So in that respect, I think you've provided a really really unique and interesting perspective on the game that many people might not have.
Yeah.
So I think that's really
Right.
cool.
Oh, thank you. He's probably not here anymore, but thank you, Viddies, for coming to the stream. Good luck at your doctor.
Cat Fox, that's
Oh yeah.
that
Hello to
is
Cat
someone.
Fox. He's
Yeah,
been here
seen
before.
Oh, really?
Or she. I don't know. He or she.
Mario Game Freak. I don't
And
think
Mario
I've
Game Freak.
seen this person before.
What? Yes, I have. I've seen him. Let's see. What Travelopolis, what made you decide to move away from just games on Nintendo consoles? I just felt like it was time. For years, I've been wanting to review Frequency and Amplitude on PS2, and I just felt like it wasn't the right time yet. But as you noticed, Frequency was reviewed on January 1st, 2024, so it was like perfect date to start that. And also with the PS4 reviews, there's a good handful of PS4 games that I really enjoy, and I wanted to share them with you as well. So, and now that I finally upgraded to a computer that can handle the HD footage of these HD consoles, it's a lot easier to review them as well.
Especially with a hard drive that is big enough to.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Frequency, I was asking earlier, do you plan to add PlayStation 3 reviews? Not anytime soon, because I don't own one, and I don't own any PS3 games, so that won't happen for a long while, if ever. Cat Fox, you can hear the dog barking. That's my dog, Bennett. He's barking at Lizzie, and her sisters are over here. They're outside. Have you ever thought about getting a PS5? Yes, I have. Although, now that Bethesda has been bought by Microsoft, I'm more inclined to get an Xbox now.
And also, have you heard that Sony has said that, like, the PlayStation 5, the PlayStation 5 is in its last years of like being a console. Like, they most likely will stop making PS5 games really soon.
It just came out.
I know, right?
Are they already going to PS6? What? That didn't come out on April 1st, did it?
No, that came out like a few months ago.
How long has it been out? Like a year, a year and a half? Maybe 2 years?
2 or 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just because it's just not making money. Like people,
Really?
Yeah, people aren't buying enough of them.
So why?
Well, for one, wait, why are people not buying them?
Yeah.
Or well, for one, they just don't have enough exclusives. Like, have you ever seen these memes of people posting the full list of PS5 exclusive games?
Oh, no, not PS5. No.
The lists are so barren. They're so short.
That's amazing because before it came out, and Dean Gavin says 2.5 years it's been out. Time just flies when you get older. It feels like the PS5 has been out for like a year and a half max for me, but apparently it's 2.5 years. But anyway, before it came out, there were a lot of surveys that I would see online saying, "What are you going to buy? The PS5 or Xbox Series
X and S.
X?" And I hate their names. They're stupid names. Anyway. Everyone would say, most people would say PS5 because I want the exclusives. Well, not anymore.
You know how back in the PS3 days, the meme was the PS3 has no games?
Uh-huh.
Well, that meme has basically been resurrected for the PS5.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I wonder what they're going to do. They've got to either buy third-party studios or start creating new IPs.
Like, one of the
What's
reasons...
up, WeViewer? Thanks for joining.
Oh, hi, WeViewer. Like, one of the reasons why PS5 has no exclusive games is because Sony keeps porting them to Steam.
Oh, yeah.
Which, that's better for, for getting more sales of your games, but if you don't have exclusives for your console, you won't sell the console.
Maybe they should just go the third-party route. And just let Microsoft have it, and be Microsoft and Nintendo.
Honestly, I can kind of see that in the future where consoles are just not going to be a thing anymore. Everyone's just going to
have PCs.
Yeah, just going to port their game to PC only.
Well, what about Nintendo? Nintendo's not in like the
is like
the spec war.
Yeah, Nintendo is like the only console on the market that's actually doing well. They're the only one doing well in the console business.
Wow. See, specs are not everything.
Yep.
That's funny. All right, let's get to the next one. Amplitude.
Wait. WeViewer says, I have actually been here on every one. I just figured since this is the last one, I would say hi. Wow.
Oh, okay.
Oh, cool. Good to have you.
It's time for the Amplitude review for the PS2. In 2006, I learned that a sequel to one of my favorite games had already been out for the past 3 years. I tried ordering it through GameStop's website 3 times. Why? Because the first 2 discs they sent me were demo discs of the game, and since I had to send
thought it was
back each
GameFly
demo and
that
wait
you
at
ordered
least
it from.
another week for hopefully the right copy to arrive, I was...
What did I say?
GameStop.
No. GameFly was the rental.
Yeah, but
No.
weren't you also able to buy the game?
Yeah, but I didn't use it. It was GameStop,
Okay.
like their online website, and they kept messing up.
Okay.
Why? Because the first 2 discs they sent me were demo discs of the game, and since I had to send back each demo and wait at least another week for hopefully the right copy to arrive, I was quite frustrated to say the least. Well, 3 times the charm, I guess, as the 3rd attempt finally netted me the full game. Was it worth the headache in procuring? Let's find out. As I mentioned, this is the sequel to FreQuency, a super underrated hidden gem within the gaming world. The core gameplay is basically the same, but that's not a bad thing, especially since Amplitude is arguably easier to play. After you choose a difficulty setting and song, the point is to build the song by shooting blue gems along the musical tracks as your ship flies over. There are only ever 3 gem locations per track, left, middle, and right, and you can use either the shoulder or face buttons on the controller to shoot them. Successfully doing so will release the music each track consists of, and if you're able to seamlessly shoot all gems within 2 bars of a track, that track will be unlocked for a portion of the song, allowing you to move your ship over to a locked track and rinse and repeat. Unlike FreQuency, the song is not sectioned into cells where the unlocked tracks will restart, so to speak, at the beginning of
love
each
this
cell.
song.
Instead, the unlocked tracks will lock up again after roughly 12 to
If I can play
16
it.
measures, or 6 to 8 bars play out, depending on the song and the difficulty setting you chose. While not in cells, the song is broken up into sections via the left side of the screen, and when you enter a new section, you'll pass through a checkpoint which instantly increases your health bar a little bit. If you run out of health due to missing too many gems, your ship will run out of fuel and the game will be over. The checkpoints don't act like normal checkpoints in games, as you'll have to restart the entire song. As you can see from the footage, instead of a tunnel for you to spin around in, the tracks are laid out more like a field, and you'll need to maneuver to the left and right to reach the tracks. This isn't a bad choice, as I can see the tracks just fine. However, there's one huge disadvantage in this layout versus the tunnel. With this field layout, in order to return to the far left track from the far right, I have to press left the number of times it takes me to get there. You can't wrap around from the far right to the far left, or vice versa, and this can cause you to lose your multiplier, which in turn reduces the amount of points you could potentially earn. Now usually, the game is fair in that even if you have to travel a great distance to return to a far side track, you should usually be able to keep your multiplier because you made it back in time, but only if you didn't make any errors in playing the previous tracks first. The reward for playing the sequence of all tracks perfectly is you get to keep your multiplier up as you return to the original track, but even one mistake can result in you losing it. Building the multiplier back up is a simple concept, but keeping it on a high difficulty, and especially when the song has fragmented tracks, is the real challenge. You'll need a minimum amount of points within a section in order to unlock the bonus songs for that section. Beating every song in the section will also net you new avatar cosmetic pieces. Like with Frequency, you can use the Auto Blaster and the Score Doubler power-ups to help you out and increase
I like
your
how
score,
you've had that
but two new
avatar
power-ups are
for
available as
like
well. The first
years,
is
and
Forever.
you've never
the
changed it
tempo
at all.
never slows down, giving you a good chance of beating some super difficult gem patterns, and even then, some of the patterns are
Oh,
just
that
crazy.
Halo you can only get
And
if you beat the
Freestyle,
game,
which,
right?
when activated,
Yep.
allows you to play either
All
a
songs.
line disc
All
scratcher
songs,
or a
okay.
synth sparkly array of colors, depending on the style of song. These new power-ups can really help you out of a jam and stay alive. The graphics are a big step up from Frequency. The tracks are all color coordinated, making it easier to identify what you're playing, which the options are drums, bass, vocals, synth, guitar, or FX. It's cool how your avatar plays the different instruments depending on which track you're playing, and even sings into a mic when on vocals. The most helpful visual upgrade is the gems themselves. They're larger and much more pronounced than in the prequel, making it much easier to know when to play. The camera POV can change too, from a third-person to a first-person cockpit view. I don't really like this viewpoint, but it's there for people who prefer it. While the backgrounds are super flashy and colorful, they can
I don't know
sometimes
how
get
you
a
would
bit
prefer
too
it, though.
intense, which can distract
Like,
you.
it's
They
just
can
less.
also be distracting in that some of
you
the
can't
songs
see
have
as much,
graphical
yeah,
elements
you
show
know?
up when you play the gems, such as sparks here and sparks and lightning here. Sometimes the track itself can get in the way, such as here when I complete this track, it gets broken up and a couple of pieces fly into the next track I'm trying to complete. Still, I'd say everything visually
But you're
has
so
been
good
updated.
that you still don't mess up.
Compared to
I mean, I've
Frequency,
played it, what,
the game
1,000
itself is
times?
easier, in that Amplitude gives the player a bit more slack on when they're supposed to hit the gems. Frequency felt like there was 1 or 2 frames of leniency, whereas Amplitude feels like you could be
This
off
is
by
the
3,
hardest song in the
4,
game,
or
right?
even 5 frames. It may not sound like much, but you can definitely feel the difference, and it's much appreciated.
It definitely feels
Also,
the
compared to
fastest.
Frequency,
It's
the
not the
song
hardest.
selection is
No.
subjectively better. Not to say the original game didn't have some bangers, but Amplitude's list contains songs and artists I'd say most people, including myself who doesn't generally listen to mainstream music, would recognize. Some of my favorites, though, are still from relatively obscure groups or musicians such as Chris Child, Freeze Pop, Diesel Boy, Symbian Project, and Computer Controller. And, by the way, the last 2 mentioned is the same person, Casson Kirker. Shout out to you, Casson. Your music is awesome. There are several multiplayer modes which are quite fun. The first has you and up to 3 others battle it out by seeing who can rack up the most points, and punishing your rivals with power-ups can help turn the tide of battle. I'm not sure I like the layout, however. Instead of a split screen, every player is on the same field, and in order to play the tracks on the edge, you have to position your ship on a slant, which can make it a bit confusing on when to play the gems. The second multiplayer mode is more fun, in that you battle each other by way of creating a pattern on a section of a track, then seeing if the other players can match that pattern. Whoever does gets a letter that spells out Amplitude, and whoever spells it out first wins. This was surprisingly more fun than I expected. The third mode is...
I remember
and others
when
can
you
create-
first watched the review, you were like, oh, it's just like the game of horse. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, it like never dawned on me that that's exactly
Yeah.
what it is.
create a remix of any song together. You can play this mode on your own if you want as well, but building a
See,
remix
this is
together
why
has
you
its
need
charm.
to run these reviews
The
by
game
me
also had the
first.
capability
Oh, okay.
to
I'll
play
do it.
online
Yeah.
matches,
Hey,
but
in all fairness, I used to do that.
Yeah,
With
I
you
don't know
and
why.
Espeon.
I don't know why you stopped. I mean, I
well,
might have...
we don't live in the same house, so it's not as easy anymore.
Okay.
So, but yes. Also, well, it doesn't make sense for you to
No,
hear them.
you just
if
don't care about my perspective.
That is true. That's definitely true. But you, if I'm playing a game or reviewing a game that you've never played or watched, how are you going to know?
I mean, that was...
That is a very niche example. Very niche.
It still happened, though. And it
did.
could have been avoided.
It could have. I'm just going to delete my account.
Fortunately, I never got to experience it, even back in the mid-aughts. It's still cool that it was available for a time.
Hold on.
The sequel to...
I did do that with Dark Souls, though.
Oh,
Remember?
that's true. And I did give you some... I did point out some things that you could have changed.
Yep. And I did.
Actually, you had like called me on the phone asking me what like the disadvantage to going hollow was, and that then I gave you the answer for that.
Right. I thought I knew. I was confirming with you.
I see.
FreQuency is a great game by itself, but also a fantastic addition to the rhythm genre. Although the overall gem pattern can be frustratingly complicated in the higher difficulty modes, and the field perspective for tracks is inferior to the tunnel viewpoint, updated visuals, a great selection of songs, and fun multiplayer modes makes it a fantastic sequel to an already fun, unique game. If you enjoyed FreQuency, you'll definitely enjoy Amplitude as well. This game gets a 4.25 out of 5 with the title of Awesome.
That song is awesome.
Yeah. I'm surprised. Stay amped up. I thought you would have given it a slightly higher score. Honestly.
Just, yeah.
All right. Well, I have to use a restroom, so I'll be right back.
All right. Quick, guys, he's not here. Let's talk trash.
I heard that.
Let's see. Don't recognize any of the songs. That's too bad. Or the artists. Although they are very, very niche. Travelopolis. From what I know, most hardware developers actually lose money on their hardware, and it's their software that they make money on. Although I could be wrong. No, I think you're correct. I think that was especially true with the PS3. They were losing $300 every time they sold one because I think it cost them $900 to make it, but they were hoping that the software would bring them back in the black. If you guys have not tried FreQuency or Amplitude or the upcoming PS4 Amplitude, you definitely should. You have to have some level of interest in rhythm games. I'm not going to say play it if you don't like that kind of genre, but very underrated. When am I going to upload the next review after Sonic Mania? I don't know. It'll happen when it happens. Yeah, so back in the day, back in like 2009, 2010, when I was still living at home, same with my siblings, I would write my scripts after playing and capturing the footage of the game. And of course, my siblings would watch and or play with me, so they had their own perspective on what the game was like, and I would read them the scripts on all of them. And it was helpful because there would be times where it'd be like, hey, I think it's actually this way. What you're talking about is actually this way. Like, oh yeah, you're right. So I'm glad you were there. Never had a chance to play rhythm games much, but I feel like I'd enjoy them. They're really fun. If any of you have played like Rock Band or Guitar Hero, I mean that's rhythm game. Amplitude and FreQuency, it's dare I say it could be more fun with a controller, because if you don't like strumming on the plastic guitar, just having the controller in your hand is fun too. Am I going to start uploading more often? It just depends on my personal schedule and how much stuff gets in the way. I mean, I uploaded Fallout 4 like a week ago, and now I got Sonic Mania out today. So, I mean, that... excuse me. 2 reviews in basically 1 week. That is going back to like 2009, 2010 levels of upload rate. That's what I would usually do. Every time I'm in an arcade, I like to play the Guitar Hero game, even though I can barely do easy. Oh, the arcade version is not as good at all, because for one, the guitar is much heavier in the arcade, and 2, it doesn't have a shoulder strap, so you just have to hold it. And I have not come across one yet where at least one of the buttons weren't sticky. At least one of them are always sticky, either the buttons themselves or the strummer, whatever you call it. So it's definitely not the ideal experience if you're going to play Rock Band or Guitar Hero that way. You've got to get the home console version. Have I played Avicii Invector? I don't even know what that is. Would I recommend the Fallout series? I mean, I've only played Fallout 4. I definitely recommend it. I absolutely love that game. It's one of my favorite games of all time. And everybody says, oh, Fallout New Vegas is better, and Fallout 3 is better. And I like, okay, fine, that's your opinion, but I've only played 1. Actually, that's not true. I did try New Vegas, and I just couldn't get into it. Everybody says the story is really good, and a lot of people say it's the best in the series, and I just could not get into it. Maybe I'll have to give it another try. Somebody asked a while back, are we going to be watching Sonic Mania review during this live stream? And yes, the answer is definitely yes. It's a part of the playlist. I wanted that one to be the final one. I should think about reviewing Middle-earth Shadow of War sequel. Yeah, I mean, I have that. I really liked the first one, so of course I got the second one. So I do plan on reviewing that sometime. I'm kind of surprised nobody has got the hint yet from Sonic Mania. Like, not even Red has got it. Do I plan on streaming more after this? Yes, I said in the beginning of the stream that I have more ideas of what I'd like to do for live streams. I mean, it won't be review reactions, but I'd like to play like Mario Kart with you guys, do a live stream of that. I think that'd be fun. Other different Let's Plays of different games. I think that'd be fun too. And even just Q&As. Although I get a lot of questions here, so I don't know how often I would do a Q&A anymore, but definitely want to bring back the Mario Party, if you will. Sorry, Mario Party. Actually, that'd be another one too. I'm sorry, I meant Mario Kart live stream. When do you think you'll stream these again? When you have like 12 or 15 more reviews? That would be minimum. Somewhere in between 12 and 15, I would probably do another one. But like I said before, I don't know if you were here, even if I get to 12 or 15 reviews, I don't know if I would do a part 13 review reaction, just because I have enough to justify a stream. If I'm going to do that again, I think I would like to have at least enough reviews for 2 sets of streams. What'd you bring me? Oh, I thought you brought me food.
Have you guys ever played this? It's called Pokidoku. It's like Sudoku but with Pokemon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like a thing you play every day. They have a new puzzle every day.
How does that even work?
So you have like this grid. The top one could be like an aspect of the Pokemon, like its typing, how it evolves, where it's from, and then it's the same thing with the vertical, the columns as well. Mm-hmm. So here's kind of what it looks like. So you only get like one guess, or you get 9 guesses, and if you mess up at all, you don't solve the puzzle. And it's also really fun because you can like fill up a Pokédex as you keep going. So like every puzzle you can guess a Pokemon that you've never guessed before, and it fills up your Pokédex. So
That's pretty cool.
yeah. Try to figure out a Pokemon that is part flying that evolves by friendship, and I can't think of anything.
Oh, I'd be terrible at the game.
Yeah.
I'm not that in depth with Pokemon. Walk up. I think I've asked you this in the Discord, but we do consider doing movie nights in Discord. I think that'd be fun. We could watch Signs if you guys are interested, or something like that. I think that'd be really fun. So.
Oh yeah, I messed up. I thought Alolan Raichu evolves through friendship, but it doesn't. So I basically messed up the whole puzzle.
Oh. Mr. Taylor Gamer says Golbat to Crobat.
Oh, true.
You just helped him out.
I should have
Nice
known
job.
that. I'm still gonna do this anyway.
Okay. Hey, I'm gonna get to the next video. We've been waiting a long time.
Yeah, sorry.
That's alright. First PS4 review. It's time for the Amplitude review for the PS4. Just like with the PS2, I thought it was a good time to start diving into non-Nintendo consoles, and yes, this is my first PS4 game to be reviewed. Think of this as the end of the Harmonix Rhythm trilogy. First was Frequency on PS2, then Amplitude, then this game, not a remastered PS2 version, but a reboot. I thought the original didn't need rebooting, but let's see if this game holds up to the unique rhythm fun the previous two had. This game is actually the product of a successful Kickstarter campaign back in 2014 that I helped fund. Along with the game, I got some pretty cool swag, including a poster and a backer t-shirt. I also got a PS2 themed game case for the PS4 game. A little odd, but cool nonetheless. Anyway, back to the game.
How much did
Amplitude
you
is a rhythm game that has the player
pledge?
control the 125.
Oh wow, nice.
The next tier up was 250, and you could get a vinyl copy of the soundtrack.
Oh, a vinyl copy.
Yeah,
Wow,
I was like, that's really cool, but I
that's
don't have enough.
schmancy.
I don't have enough money for that. Even at the time, 125 was stretching it. The ship, where they move it to different musical tracks on a playing field, all the while shooting blue gems, which release the music from the tracks to play a song. Shooting the gems is easily done with the shoulder or face buttons of the controller, but not so easily done is shooting all the gems in a track bar due to the gem quantity and pattern set based on the difficulty setting you chose before beginning. If you've played Frequency and PS2 Amplitude, you should notice right off the bat that the playing field isn't a field like in Amplitude, but a tunnel like in Frequency. However, the tunnel has been enhanced for player experience in that instead of only having one... I want to make a quick note. From the time I played this to the review, I totally forgot that the tunnel layout was an unlockable that you get in the game.
In Amplitude.
In Amplitude PS4.
Oh, right.
It starts out as the field, but if you can get an unlockable that makes it into the tunnel.
There was a commenter who left that.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Might have been one of the peeps in the
chat right now?
Chat. Mm-hmm. Track per
Everyone is
going to
say, "Oh, that was me.
There are
That was
3
me."
tracks per musical source. It was me. This naturally increases the size of the tunnel, making it so you can clearly see which tracks are which, due to each one being color coordinated in relation to a specific instrument or vocals, and where the other tracks are in relation to your current position. There are 2 benefits to having multiple tracks of the same musical source. One being that the tunnels have various bends and turns, which can make it challenging to see the upcoming gems to shoot. Moving over to a different track of the same musical source can give you a better vantage point. The second benefit is you can see when power-ups are about to cross your path on different tracks, and you'll have a chance to be able to slide over to the track that has the power-up. Even though the power-up names have changed from the PS2 game, their temporary functions are the same, which include increasing your maximum multiplier to gain more points, slowing down a song so you can hit those crazy gem patterns easier, completely auto-unlocking a track so you don't have to do it yourself, and jumping into a freestyle mode with your ship to add a small remix to the song, all the while increasing your overall score.
One huge helpful mechanic is, unlike in the previous two games, this amplitude eases the burden of having to press so many times to reach the next available track, in that your ship will automatically snap to the next track. This is especially helpful in scenarios where instead of pressing multiple times in one direction, you can just press once in the opposite direction to land on the open track. This is a great addition to help the player not lose their multiplier just because they couldn't reach the next track.
Did you have to get used to that
Another
when you first
helpful
played the game?
mechanic the previous two games did
A little
have
bit.
is that in this game you can obtain power-ups not
Because
only
it's a
by
little
successfully
jarring
shooting
going like
power-up
halfway across the
gems, but
screen.
you can
Yeah.
also acquire them by completing the track just before the power-up gems become available. I was honestly a bit confused as to why I was getting power-ups when I first started playing, but quickly noticed I was obtaining them by completing the preceding track they were on. This is an especially helpful gameplay choice that I'm glad the developers made. Most of these power-ups can really help save your ship, however the developers added a multiplier-only difficulty mode called Super, where, as it suggested, only the multiplier power-up is available.
Super
The
is
other
also
difficulty
an
modes let you restore
unlockable
your health meter every time you complete a track
element
bar,
in the game.
which is
Oh.
2 measures
And I
per
just
song,
forgot, 'cause I've
as
had it
well
for
as
so
having
long.
checkpoints that also restore your health. Super, however, says forget these luxuries. If you're going to play this, you better be good. No health restoration here. You must complete the song with the most complex gem patterns without any help. Now, the second highest difficulty
Well,
mode,
there
Expert,
is
has
some
this-
health restoration in that mode. Like if you're at the point where one more mistake will kill you,
Oh, okay.
it'll give you a little bit of health. It gives you enough health to give you like a little bit of buffer for another mistake.
Okay, yeah, that's true. But it doesn't keep climbing.
Yes, exactly.
By the way, that last song that was in the example like 10 seconds ago, that was from Crypt of the Necrodancer.
Yeah.
Which it's really fun to play.
Yeah,
Same
that's
gem
the
patterns as
first
Super,
time I heard
but
that
as
song.
I said, Super mode doesn't contain any helpfully progressing power-ups and won't restore any health. Get ready for a true challenge if you play this. When it comes to the song library, unfortunately this game has the weakest selection of the three, which, for me, means the majority of songs are not fun to listen to. There are 30 songs total, but only 9, maybe 10 of them are songs I regularly come back to play. Unlike the previous two games, this one actually has a campaign mode where you're trying to revive a coma patient by completing one song after another, and you can unlock bonus songs if you score high enough with the previous set of songs. It's an interesting premise, however the vast majority of songs within the campaign mode are not great, to the point where I'd even say some of them are bad. I'm not talking about the gem patterns, I'm talking about the actual songs themselves. There's only 2 or maybe 3 that are either okay or at least pretty good, but the rest are mostly, we'll say forgettable. The songs not listed in the main campaign, however, are much better and just generally more fun to play. One of the songs, Do Not Retreat, by Computer Controller, is actually a bonus song that only Kickstarter backers received, and it's arguably one of the best in the game and perhaps my favorite to play. The others I enjoy are songs by Symbian Project, Freeze Pop, Kodomo, and Wolfgun. If you're hoping for a tracklist consisting of mainstream artists, you'll need to look elsewhere, but if you enjoy variations of EDM, you'll enjoy these relatively unknown but nevertheless great composers and musical groups. Multiplayer is limited to local play, but it's still fun. Like with the previous two games, it pits you against up to 3 others to see who can gain the highest score. With all 3 games, I wish the developers made it so that each player could choose their own difficulty setting, thereby equaling out the challenge among everyone based on their skill level. If I want to play on Expert, but the others want to play on a lower setting, this would even out the challenge as much as possible, but instead, in order to maximize the fun, you have to find someone near the same skill level as you, and since there's no online multiplayer, it's fairly difficult to do so. We did get an online mode, sort of, in the form of online ranking boards. Now you can see how you stack up against other players in each song. Your total combined score is also tallied up on the home screen and shows you where you rank overall. If Harmonix achieved its stretch goal during its Kickstarter campaign, the game would have received an actual online multiplayer mode, but it was about $280,000 short of reaching this goal. Oh well,
Just
at
a
least
little.
the initial goal to create the game was successful. If not, this video probably wouldn't exist. This reboot is a nice addition to the rhythm genre. The first 2 games had more features with remix options and various multiplayer modes, and while the overall soundtrack for PS4 Amplitude is arguably the weakest of the 3, there are a handful of hidden gems that are really fun to play, and I understand music is subjective, so there could be songs you may enjoy more than I do. It had the potential to be the best of the three with an actual online multiplayer mode, and if it got enough support, DLC songs might have been available. Still, it's an enjoyable game and worthy to be included in the Harmonix trilogy, as I call it, and hopefully one day the developers will add more to it, or even a new game can be released. This game gets a 3.75 out of 5 with the title of Good.
That game really does have the best field layout for the tracks, I think.
Definitely.
It's like the most optimal.
Mm-hmm. Well, we are running a little behind. I was expecting to be done fairly soon, but we still have quite a few reviews to get through.
We kind of have to power through them.
There aren't really any more new comments right now, so I'm just going to get to the next one.
Okay.
So here we go.
It's time for the Super Mario Bros. Wonder review for the Nintendo Switch. So, my honest reaction to watching this game's Nintendo Direct reveal was interested, but not ecstatic. It's been quite a while since I played a 2D Mario platformer, and now that I've completed this one, was it a more wondrous experience than I thought it'd be? Let's find out. The story, at its core, is quite familiar, but a different coat of paint helps liven things up. Mario and friends receive an invitation to the never-before-seen Flower Kingdom, hosted by the large and in-charge ruler, Prince Florian. Bowser decides to crash the party, though, and nabs the presented Wonder Flower. With its magical properties, he ends up fusing himself with Prince Florian's castle, becoming a monstrous castle himself. So, because Mario has a wondrous heart, he, Prince Florian, and company head out to rescue the kingdom. Before you begin the game, actually, you get to choose which character you'd like to play as from a handful of selections. I thought it was cool that Daisy is finally a playable character in a game like this, but I played as Mario for my first run, so that's who you'll mostly see and refer to in this review, but just know you can play as any of these as well.
You
In
only
addition,
played as
the
Mario?
Yoshis and Nabbit have an advantage.
I played
well
as like all the characters.
in that they cannot take damage, but they also cannot transform via power-ups.
Although
They're
I
good
played
selections
mostly
for
as
younger
Luigi,
players
for
beginning
sure.
to understand the fundamentals of the game, which I thought was nice of Nintendo to include them. If you have a history of playing 2D Mario platformers,
Actually,
you
I
already
did
have a
switch
good
it
understanding
for
of
some
what to
puzzle
expect.
levels, but mostly
Start at the
Mario.
beginning of the level and work your way to the flagpole on the other side of the map. While familiar coins, power-ups, and enemies are present in each level, a few new objects and elements make their debut.
I really like the
The
art
elephant
aesthetic.
fruit seems
Yeah.
like an
And
out
like
of left field
the
idea,
character
but it
models
has its charm.
for like Mario and
Acquiring
company.
one will turn Mario into an elephant version of himself, allowing him to use his trunk to swipe away enemies and certain blocks with ease, as well as retain water for later use, specifically for watering plants and solving puzzles. You might think he'd move more slowly than normal, but he's just as agile as ever. He can also squeeze into pipes, so don't think you're limiting yourself in where you might be able to explore. The next power-up is the Bubble Flower. With this, Mario can shoot bubbles forward which can envelop enemies and turn them into coins. The timing can take a bit to get used to, but you can also jump on the bubbles as a one-time spring, effective for reaching difficult platforms and areas. The final new power-up is the Drill Mushroom, and it's probably my favorite. After changing into a drill suit, Mario can dig himself into the ground or ceiling of most areas.
I felt like
Doing
that
so will
power-up
allow
was a
you to
little
bypass enemies
underutilized.
and obstacles,
Yeah.
as well
It
as
was
give you the option of
probably the
different routes
rarest
available.
power-up.
Yeah,
You're also
it's really
protected
fun
from
though.
certain aerial attacks, and you can break specific blocks with ease. These three wondrous power-ups are great additions and allow players to experience the levels in unique ways, but the real surprise comes from the Wonder Flower usually hidden somewhere within each level. As you come in contact
I want to
with
say back here, I really like, especially in 2D platformers, where you have... They're not NPCs, they're not enemies, they're just neutral, interactable characters, I guess. Like these
Like
hippos.
the hippos? Oh,
Hippos,
okay.
they don't hurt you. They don't help you really. Well, I mean, they kind of help with the utility. But, like, with every Mario game, pretty much anything that moves kills you or hurts you. With the hippos, they don't. And they actually kind of help you. And it's just a nice breath of fresh air, I think.
from the Wonder Flower usually hidden somewhere within each level. As you come in contact with one, a temporary timed in-game event will happen, usually related to the level itself changing in some way, and the goal is to find and retrieve a Wonder Seed which will return the level back to normal. It's always a surprise to see what will happen, some of which are quite humorous, exciting, or both. A unique addition to the game were these talking flowers, and when I say talking, I mean they actually have a voice. The flowers will comment, compliment, or even lightly assist players as they traverse through. I've heard there's some controversy, but I usually didn't mind them chiming in here and there. Some of their lines were kind of funny, although if you just happened to keep near one for a while, it would repeat the same line over and over, which got annoying. Within each level are purple flower coins.
I really like that
Yeah,
level.
that
Collected,
level was
you can use them
really
to purchase
tough.
various items at vendors.
It took me a
Such
while to
items
beat
include
that
one
level.
of mushrooms, additional wonder seeds, which are used to access new levels and areas of the map, and a new, never-before-seen item, standees. After spending 10 flower coins, you'll be rewarded with a random standee of a character, which is a certain pose of that character. Standees is a way to communicate with online players. If you have the online settings active, other players can play the level you're on, and vice versa, in relation to you with them. Besides crouching, you and your fellow ghosts can communicate with standees. Quite limited, however, they were good at telling other players where hidden blocks and secrets were. I at first didn't think I would enjoy online mode since I prefer to play alone when it comes to 2D platformers, but online play was actually quite fun. Everyone could play at their own pace, and the screen always stayed locked onto you. It was kind of cool to see the other players go through the level, as they didn't actually interact with your surroundings, but their own in their own game, but
What's
you
that
can
guy
still
doing?
see each other in a live setting.
He's
If you
I
have
don't know.
online mode active, the game is super
He's just
generous
derping
at
around.
keeping you alive. If you die, you can be revived by touching another player or another player's standee within 5 seconds of death. There didn't seem to be a limit to how many times you could be revived, and this was especially helpful in areas where
Oh,
platforms
man.
were scarce. If you revive a player, you'll receive heart points to your character. They don't have any utility purpose, but it's kind of cool nonetheless. You also receive heart points for finishing levels at the same time with online players. Another major gameplay addition were badges. While you could only wear one at a time, each badge would give you a different, unique ability that could help you in your journey, such as gently floating down with your hat, being able to begin any level with a super mushroom, or basically having a double jump, which was definitely my favorite. Badges could be purchased at vendors, but most required you to complete a challenge where using the ability of the badge was the point of the level. As I said, I prefer to play solo when it comes to these types of games, and, well, the same is true for this one. Up to 4 people can play together, but unless you have a great leader and 3 soldiers who don't mind being told what to do, each level can become borderline chaos. The camera always centers on one player, which means the other 3 automatically have a disadvantage. Keeping up with the focus player limits the gameplay and freedom of the others, and I just find it to be more of a chore than fun, even if I was the camera's favorite. I'm not saying there isn't fun to be had when playing co-op, but I definitely prefer saving the kingdom by myself. The graphics are charming, to say the least. The characters all have a smile when running through the levels, and there are specific notes of attention to detail that I just love. Examples being how Mario reaches for his hat after entering a horizontal pipe, or like how a drum roll begins when performing a ground pound with a cymbal crash at the end. One of my favorites is how enemies will furrow their brow when Mario gets too close. These small elements build up the overall charm of the game, and they're all highly appreciated. Even the art style, while slightly different, is a nice fresh look to the franchise. I couldn't help but think of the way Mario looked on the cover of Nintendo Power Issue 1 when Mario acquired a super mushroom in this game. The controls are basically perfect. I don't really know what to say here. Nintendo has been doing this for so long, I'd be surprised if I experienced anything less. The boss fights were creative, yet a bit disappointing due to the lack of overall challenge. Even the later boss fights weren't anything to sweat over. The final boss was fun with a good balance of difficulty, but the rest were okay at best. Super Mario Bros. Wonder is a wondrous game, and one of the best 2D platformers I've ever played. As of this review, is it the best 2D Mario platformer? I'd say it's at least a contender. I wish there were more levels, although there can be quite a bit of replayability, depending on how much you found as you played through. And while most of the boss fights were somewhat underwhelming, they were still overall fun. With fantastic level design, high attention to detail, and a variety of different ways to play via the badges and online elements, it's just fun. It's a great example of gaming fun. This game gets a 4.5 out of 5 with the title of Epic.
One thing I'm surprised you didn't comment on in that review is that in the multiplayer, it's not like how it was in New Super Mario Bros. Where you can like jump on players' heads or bump into each other. In Wonder, you can just like pass right through them. Oh, and also like when you get hit or like power up, the game doesn't like freeze. Which, yeah. Like I think those changes like make the multiplayer way more fun.
All those points you said, I just didn't really even think about them, except for passing through them. I should have said something about that. Yep.
Let's see, Frequency, which Mario game do you prefer? New Super Mario Bros. Wii, New Super Mario Bros. U, or Mario Bros. Wonder?
Oh, Wonder.
Yeah,
Wonder
for sure.
Yeah, just better. All right, we're still running a little behind, so I'm going to get to the next one, if you guys don't mind.
Okay.
So, here we go.
Caution! This is an M-rated game, so the Magical Chicken insists that viewer discretion is advised.
It's time for the Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor Game of the Year Edition review for the PS4. The Lord of the Rings universe is right up my alley. Medieval fantasy is one of my favorite genres, and I was eager to play this, seeing how the last Lord of the Rings game I played was The Third Age on GameCube, which I highly enjoyed. Did this game do as well or better? Let's find out. If you're not familiar with the lore, the story won't mean as much to you as those who know at least the basics, and while it's not crucial to have a background, it will definitely help you appreciate the story. And while the game is not canon to the books or movies, it takes certain canonical elements and makes its own story. You take control of Talion, a Gondorian ranger captain who is positioned at the Black Gate of Mordor. He and his family are suddenly attacked and killed by a ruthless enemy. Don't worry, I'm not spoiling anything. But instead of dying, Talion remains in a state in between life and death and meets a mysterious elf wraith who also seems to share a similar fate. They ultimately join together, meaning Talion is able to retain his physical form, but now has certain wraith powers at his command, and the two begin their journey to find the killers.
I've heard that in the beginning of this
RPG,
game,
and quite
like when it like introduces the stealth mechanic or like the stealth kill mechanic, they introduce it to you by like sneaking up on your wife and giving her a kiss.
Yes.
Oh, that's so adorable.
Yep. I also want to say, apparently, they were going to make another Batman Arkham game, but that concept, early in development, turned into this game.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Interesting.
quite a unique one at that. The game is open world, and while the areas you play within are not huge by any means, they're good sized and packed with orc enemies known as Uruks. As you traverse through, there will be many missions for you to complete, both main and side quests. The main missions of course progress the story, but certain ones also unlock specific skills for Talion. The side quests mainly focus on completing certain objectives with one of your 3 weapons, sword, bow, or dagger. Completing these challenges rewards you with experience and currency. Currency is also a prize for finding collectibles hidden throughout, which can also provide deeper story lore. Talion's skill tree is honestly a bit small. The left side focuses on combat skills, while the right is for your wraith powers. Even though most skills are worth purchasing, I can't help but feel wanting more to choose from. Among the enemies you fight are captains. These are powerful orc leaders who have special immunities as well as specific weaknesses. In order to become aware of each captain's special traits, you'll have to force the knowledge out of a specific orc, known as a worm, using your wraith powers. Once done, you'll learn all you need to know about the captain you're hunting, however, finding the captain can take a bit of patience. The worm will tell you where the captain currently is within a specific sub-region, but you still have to locate their exact whereabouts. Instead of blindly hoping to run into them, you can use your powers to enter the Wraith world, allowing you to see all enemies, humans, and wildlife within your surrounding area, even those behind walls or structures. If a captain is within your viewing distance, you can press R3 to zoom in on them. If this is the same captain you gain knowledge on, this will also allow you to quickly see their strengths and weaknesses before engaging in combat. In the beginning of the game, the captains are low level and have multiple weaknesses, some of which can be instant death if you perform the right action. As the game progresses and you level up, so do the captains, and high-level captains have way more immunities than weaknesses, which can make it quite challenging to take them down. Once you defeat a captain, they'll drop a random rune for you to pick up. Runes are special items that once placed upon one of your 3 weapons will yield a unique advantage for Talion, such as being able to deal more damage to captains with a specific melee attack or granting immunity to poison. The quality of the dropped rune can vary from basic to legendary, and the currency you obtain from quests will allow you to purchase more rune slots for your weapons, as well as permanent upgrades such as increasing your max health or being able to carry more arrows. Other side quests involve dealing with orc captains in specific situations, such as disrupting a planned execution or joining the fight as a third party against 2 orcs who are battling each other. These types of quests were especially helpful in quickly obtaining runes to upgrade your character. Probably the most unique game mechanic is the Nemesis system. Each orc, including non-captains, have a power ranking. If you're killed by a non-captain, that orc will be promoted to captain status, which will increase their power ranking and give them special immunities, weaknesses, and an armor cosmetic upgrade. In addition, time will pass on the orc captain side quests, and captains you didn't even get involved with will also move up the ranks. Every time you encounter a captain, a short in-game cutscene will play out with the captain taunting or threatening you. If the captain kills you and you return to them, a new dialogue will play that shows them befuddled on how you somehow escaped death. It's a cool detail that just enhances the overall gameplay and theme. The combat system rewards timely actions instead of button mashing. An early unlockable skill is Execution, which after you reach a minimum amount on your hit streak, you'll be able to perform a combat finisher, deadly to orc grunts and causes high damage to captains. These orcs must have the worst vision, because unless you are about 10 feet in front of them, they won't see you. They can hear you run near them, but as long as you're in stealth mode, it's almost impossible for them to detect you until you're right up on them. The stealth mechanic is a big help to your character, however I thought the game was too generous in providing you with stealth kills even after the enemy clearly saw and reacted to you. Now even though orcs are tougher as you play through, if you've got the basics of combat down and have several key abilities unlocked, it's almost impossible for enemies to overwhelm you, which ultimately makes the game a little too easy. Even when facing high-ranking orcs when you yourself are highly ranked, it's honestly sometimes too easy to win. There were only a few instances where the captain I faced had pretty much every immunity to exist, which usually meant I had to beat them with simple melee combat, and this could be especially difficult when they had their own battalion with them. Don't get me wrong, the game's not boring if you're overpowering. I just found it odd that the overall difficulty doesn't scale with your character on how I expected it to. Even though the 2 main areas you get to play in aren't huge, it can still take some time to get to one spot from another. Fortunately, there are several shortcuts you can take, such as unlocking a specific skill to make you temporarily run faster, using the fast travel system, or even taming and riding dangerous wildlife. Most of the walls are climbable, however there were a few specific areas where Talion wouldn't climb even though it looked completely possible. This particular spot looks climbable, but because there's this tiny ledge above him, he won't go up. These instances were quite annoying and could be dangerous if you were surrounded by enemies. Controlling Talion isn't difficult, but there were a couple of quirks I wished were ironed out a bit. Sometimes when I was trying to precisely move him around walls, he would automatically snap to the wall as if I wanted him to be stealthy. This happened few and far between, but was still annoying when it did. The other is if you were surrounded by enemies, using the combat finisher on the specific orc you were trying to target sometimes wouldn't happen and Talion would instead target a different orc. You're supposed to push the control stick in the direction of the orc you want to target, but if you're swarmed, Talion would sometimes attack a different enemy, and this was only disadvantageous if your original target was a captain, but instead Talion kills a grunt. Other than those 2 bullets, the controls work just fine. Graphically, it's not the best I've seen from the PS4, but it's still more than enough. I especially liked the facial animations of the orcs, and I didn't experience any slowdown. The voice acting was terrific. The orcs have many different lines of dialogue, and it's quite rare
his helmet.
to
Oh my
gosh. The same thing when you encounter them
That's
multiple
awesome.
times. There aren't many boss fights, but they were all a good challenge. Having the right skills unlocked could mean the difference between beating them once or having to retry over and over. The Game of the Year edition comes bundled with character skins and extra missions, with a good handful of them being able to play as the Wraith before he encounters Talion. My favorite extra missions, though, were the Trials of War, where instead of experience, it's a point system for how well you do with specific tasks. This is a fantastic game, and one
Oh
that
my
I'm
gosh.
so glad I decided to try. While it has a few shortcomings in regards to controlling tallying in certain situations, the somewhat lacking skill
Wow.
tree, the fact that if you've upgraded tallying enough, the game can sometimes get a bit too easy, and the main campaign is a bit short overall, the overwhelming positives, most notably the unique nemesis system, and overall fun factor more than make up for them. If you're a fan of RPGs, this is definitely one you won't want to pass on. This game gets a 4.5 out of 5 with the title of Epic.
Joshman asks, Frequency, do you think Middle-earth's Shadow of Mordor and its sequel deserve its M rating?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Like, you can behead and, like, dismember enemies, can't you? That's definitely worth an M rating.
It doesn't have, like, you know, vulgar dialogue or anything. It's the amount of violence that's in it. Dean Gavitt, interesting how games can become something totally different during development, like how the first Devil May Cry originally started out as Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, that's right. I've heard of that, yeah.
I have not played any of those games.
Yeah, me neither. I watched Espeon play Devil May Cry 5, but I think her PC just wasn't, it couldn't really run it well, so it was like at a super low frame rate.
Oh. Viddies, welcome back. Hope everything went okay. Hooray for something. I've heard the Gollum game is bad. Yeah, I heard it was bad too.
Oh, yeah.
I heard, like, even just looking at it, the character model looks terrible. The skin your knees hint my girlfriend got by saying it's a skateboard term, and that's how I knew it was Tony Hawk Pro Skater HD. Yep. All right, let's watch it. Here we go.
It's time for the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2 review for the PS4. Many of you may know the Dreamcast was the first console I owned, and Pro Skater 2 was one of my favorite games for it. I spent so many hours learning tricks and exploring all the levels. Does this remaster bring back the awesome nostalgia, or does it bail? Let's find out.
You know, it
Seeing
took
how
me...
this is a bundled game, I was originally going to review just...
When you let me play it to so we can get multiplayer footage, it took me a while to get used to the controls, but, like, once I really got it, like, wow, it's
so fun.
It's so much fun. Holy cow.
The chain combos
Yeah.
and everything. Yeah.
One of these days, I might actually get this game for probably PC or Switch.
You need to get a PS4 so you can get Bloodborne and Soul Calibur 6 so you can play. And this game.
It's Pro Skater 2, but because both games are essentially the same concept and playstyle just with different levels, I might as well include both into this review. When you begin, you'll be able to choose a character or create your own. Since I don't follow the skating world, Tony Hawk is the only person I know from the list, and that's who you'll see in most of this video. It's cool that everyone starts out with their own unique stats, but because you're able to eventually increase those stats as you play through, I would assume that everyone plays the same, or at least very similarly to each other when they all have maxed out stats. Each level is packed with different obstacles you can use to perform tricks.
Oh, your mic
The
popped
tricks
a little
consist
bit
of
for
grabs,
that.
flips, and grinds with your board, and each category of tricks are mapped to the square, triangle, and circle buttons respectively. Performing each trick nets you points, but landing correctly is how you actually receive those points. You could pull off a crazy trick combo, but if you don't land correctly, or bail, those points go down the drain. Once you've pulled off a certain number of tricks, especially if you can chain tricks together, your special meter at the top left corner will be full, allowing you to pull off...
Just watching this makes me want to play
Yeah,
it.
There's
it's
many
just
to
like
choose from
mesmerizing
mapped
to
your
watch.
controller, some of which can net you a large amount of points. Not only are these really fun to perform, but after some practice, being able to string together multiple tricks one after the other is just really fun in general. In each level, you'll have a checklist of goals you need to hit in order to unlock the next level, and rinse and repeat until all levels are unlocked. Some goals are the same in each level, such as collecting scattered letters to complete the word skate, or finding the usually difficult to reach VHS tape. Most of the goals, though, are level specific, such as jumping over or alling 3 fire hydrants in New York City, or collecting 5 Liberty Bells in Philadelphia. You only have 2 minutes to complete as much as you can per run, and unless you've mastered each one before, it will take you multiple attempts to finish all the goals in each level. Some goals are borderline impossible to complete unless you've increased certain stats for your character. Like right here, there's a collectible high above this ledge, but my ollie stat isn't yet high enough for me to be able to get up there. Thankfully, you don't have to complete all the goals in one level to advance, so if you're unable to complete a goal you've been stuck on for a while, assuming you've been able to recently increase your stats, you can go back to a previous level and complete something else that you weren't able to before. It doesn't matter which goals you accomplish, just as long as you complete the required minimum in order to unlock the next level. One aspect of completing the goals is that some can be a real mystery on where and or how you go about doing so. Like for instance, one goal on this level is to complete 3 rooftop gaps. The first 2 are, to a degree, not too difficult in figuring out how to complete them, but the third one was so cryptic that I had to look up online on how to do it. You're supposed to launch off this ramp and not bail when you hit the ground, is what I thought. No, instead, you're not supposed to hit the ground, but grind on this rail before touching the ground.
Yeah, that's really weird.
What? If there's some sort of hint or anything to
apparently, that specific example is notorious in the game across the community.
That's weird that they didn't even like update like the hint of how to do it. Like it was cryptic even back then, so why didn't they update it to make it less cryptic?
The other 2 rooftop gaps, all you have to do is land
on the ground, right?
No, it's not the ground. It's like on another platform.
Oh, okay.
But you wouldn't think to go on a rail, especially one that's not easy to navigate to.
Yeah, like why didn't they update the hint to tell you to do that? That's really weird.
I don't know.
tell me I was supposed to do this and I missed it, then that's on me. But I swear there's nothing to indicate this. Plus, angling yourself so you don't over or undershoot the rail is not the easiest thing to do. Another one was in this level. Fortunately, before you begin a level, the camera will show you where you need to complete a goal, but if it involves a specific grind trick, it can be a real head-scratcher. With this one, I have to tail slide on this ledge to complete the goal. But how do I perform a tail slide? Nowhere in the trick guides does it tell you. It shows you how to perform specific lip tricks, but there's nothing to tell you how to perform certain grinds. Again, I had to look it up. Most goals aren't too difficult to figure out, but there's a handful between both games that can be nearly impossible to decipher without any help, or having a huge amount of patience and a bit of luck. Completing the goals will not only help unlock the next levels, but will also net you experience and money.
This song is so good.
Experience levels you up, which can unlock specific skating gear and clothing, and money actually lets you purchase these items. I honestly didn't care about these, as they're all just cosmetic. The thing I really cared about were the stats for your character, and the only way to increase them was to collect stat points scattered throughout each level. I didn't mind this, but I feel like it would have made more sense to gain a stat point every time you leveled up. Instead of having to restart your character's stats when switching between games, it was a great design choice in that your player's stats are permanent between both. Seeing how I've never played the original before, it took me quite a while to build up my stats and complete the missions in each level. When I switched to Pro Skater 2 though, it was much easier and faster to complete since my character still had the same stats as when I finished the first game. The graphics at a glance look great, however the character models looked blurry when selecting them, like the game wasn't able to fully render them. The same thing could happen with various textures when playing custom maps online. There were also a couple of glitches I ran into, or skated into actually.
Oh.
The controls were basically flawless, however performing special tricks took some getting used to, as the timing to input the button combination is very precise, and sometimes it felt like it wouldn't work when you could have sworn you did it right. Other than that, I didn't have any other complaints. Much of the music is quite nostalgic for me, referring to Pro Skater 2. Almost all the original songs have returned, but a large assortment of new songs have also been added, and thankfully you're able to easily skip a track with R3 and even make a custom playlist. One of the most notable differences between this game and the originals is that you're actually able to listen to the entirety of every song. In the originals, the song would stop playing when your 2 minutes in a level was over, but this game treats the songs like you're listening to a radio, as the music will continue to play even within the loading screens without pause. Besides the main campaigns, there's a variety of multiplayer modes including Free Skate, Tag, which is really fun, various modes to see who can get the highest score, or one of my personal favorites, Graffiti, where once you've performed a trick on any obstacle, you capture that obstacle. However, if the other player performs a higher point trick on that same obstacle, they will take it over, and whoever has more terrain at the end of the timer wins. It's pretty much Splatoon without the ink. There's also a custom park creator that allows you to create your dream park, as well as play on parks others created. The final gameplay option is an online rank system. Here, you can perform tricks in any level to see where you rank with others. I have a long way to
Dang.
go. If you're like me and played at least one of the original Pro Skaters when you were young, this huge dose of nostalgia is for you. While a handful of the
That's
goals
crazy,
can be
'cause, like,
confusingly
watching you
cryptic,
play, like,
oddly unrendered
you look
graphic
like you're
elements
really
are present,
skilled at this
and
game.
performing special tricks can sometimes not register. Updated graphics, precise controls.
I feel like I'm good at performing tricks in the moment. It's chaining the tricks, so the score doesn't stop.
Yeah.
Is tricky.
Yeah.
A large customizable soundtrack that you're actually able to listen to every song fully this time, and fun extras including multiplayer and custom park building make this one gnarly game bundle. This game gets a 4.25 out of 5 with the title of Awesome.
Everybody thought this was Persona 5.
Oh yeah. Should we watch this version or the like the corrected version?
No, I'm gonna watch this one.
Okay.
So this is this the second to last or no? This is the third to last.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going long into the stream, but we are gonna finish. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. This was fun to make.
This game gets a 3.75 out of 5 with the title of Good.
Well, I want to know what your guys' reactions were to like the
Yeah.
first 10 seconds of watching it. Did you know that? Oh, it's April Fool's.
While not an excellent game, it's
At-
definitely not bad
at the-
either. And
I
at
think,
its current super low price, it
When I saw like the scene where you say the score, I realized, oh, I know what he's doing.
Yeah, I've been wanting to do an April Fool's joke review for a long time. The only other one I did was
Red Steel
2. And you gotta get the timing right. You have to have the right game, and you have to have the right idea. And I finally figured out what I want to do, and here it is.
shouldn't be overlooked. But with a lot of replayability as new scenarios become available as the missions level up, I guess this is okay too. It's kind of amazing that 3 was acceptable. I understand it's a similar port of an arcade cabinet, but I really wish there were at least 2 more missions. Ghost Squad is a fun, albeit shallow game that is much more enjoyable as a co-op experience. This was actually quite fun and has the potential to help your overall accuracy. There's a few extras in terms of target
This music is
practice,
so
but without
repetitive,
the
but it's so
reticle.
good.
Honestly, for what the game is, it's almost better that the voice acting quality wasn't taken seriously. The voice acting was pretty funny though, in that much of it was bad and or over the top. The music, like the levels, is lacking in quantity, but the quality fits the overall theme of the game. The faces of the character models look pretty good, but some terrain elements were pretty bland. It looks more like a GameCube game, but it's still not bad. The graphics are okay for the type of game this is. Pressing on the D-pad can change your fire rate, and there will be times you'll have to use the action button, which is usually A, to perform QuickTime events or other objectives such as rescuing hostages or defusing bombs, and having to
I don't
do
know
this
how
with
we
the
keep
D-pad
failing
very
that.
often.
I don't know.
I tried this for a while, but I eventually switched
gotta
to
be
just
very
the Wiimote
quick.
alone,
Yeah.
and I think I preferred this. Quickly pointing the Wiimote down then back up will reload your weapon, and the game can in fact be played with the Wii Zapper. The controls are basically perfect, but seeing how it's
I wanted to say some of the dialogue, even though it's reversed, some of the dialogue actually works.
Yeah.
Reversed both ways.
Yeah, some of it, it's like you normally you would give like a statement and then you would elaborate, but in this way you're like elaborating on something and then giving a summarization of your elaboration.
Yeah. It kind of
So
works.
yeah, it still works.
But most of the review, honestly, for me, it's a little hard to watch. Hard to stay focused. But that's the joke.
It's essentially point and click, you'd expect nothing less. These special modes are only available in the overarching party mode, where up to 4 players can play together instead of just 2. Okay. Not only
That's
but
pretty
some
funny.
terrain elements and vehicles change to fit the style. Special modes are also unlockable, like Ninja Mode, where instead of military...
That ninja mode is really
your
fun.
characters don ninja garb, wield shuriken, and fight off other ninjas and samurai. Once you've reached certain levels, you'll gain a higher military ranking and possibly new weapons and uniforms.
Accident's a
Once you
little
win or lose
happy.
a run, your character will
Frog
your
the.
experience and level up. Back when the Wii still had online capabilities, you could upload your score to a global rankings board, but if you try to do this now, all you get is this error message. It doesn't matter if you win or lose, your final score will be tallied and put on the local rankings board. If you can do this, and perform well in any other type of in-game objective, you'll receive more points than if you didn't. The whole point of the mission is to be as stealthy as possible, so stopping the spinner on low danger levels is key. If you complete a mission, you'll increase the level of that mission, and when you come back to play it again on a higher level, new elements and or scenarios can be available, such as here on this mission on level 3, you need to stop an on-screen spinner to determine the danger level of the upcoming area. Various objects in each level can be targets, some of which can hold valuable items such as health packs, weapon upgrades, or armor. Enemies aren't the only things you can shoot. This gives some replayability, as again, having only 3 levels is extremely small. Within each mission, you'll be given the choice of branching paths that all lead to the same ending. If I miss just once, the bad guy gets away and you fail the entire mission. Like here, I'm supposed to take down this enemy with one headshot. There are various objectives as you make your way through the level, but the only way to really lose a mission is to fail the final objective. In this port, though, you don't have to do anything except press start to instantly load back in, even if you're playing on single-player mode. I'm assuming because this was originally an arcade game, if your character died, you would have to load in more quarters to keep playing. The thing is, though, after you choose your character's look and weapon, you are stuck with your choices for all 3 missions. It is nice, however, that you don't have to begin with the first mission, and instead you can choose any mission you like. As I just said, there are 3 missions to choose from, which is incredibly low. Player 1's character has voice lines that communicates to the commanding officer, while Player 2's character is like a fart. Silent, but dead. You could solo the game, which doesn't take too much effort.
I came up with that joke,
by
the way.
It's made for a co-op experience, and having a friend play with you is far more fun than just playing by yourself. It's ultimately up to you to take out the enemies, rescue the hostages, defuse bombs, and save the day from terrorists. There's not really an overall story to the game, but in each of the 3 missions to choose from, you are the leader of the Alpha Blue unit of the Global Humanitarian Operation and Special Tactics Squad, or Ghost Squad. I've never played the arcade version, but apparently this port isn't a one-to-one copy. This is an arcade-style rail shooter, and was originally a full game cabinet developed in 2004. Let's find out. I didn't think much of it then, but seeing how I recently found a copy for only $5, should I have not waited so long to play it? I remember seeing this game hit the shelves soon after the Wii's release. For the Wii. It's time for the Ghost Squad review.
It's so weird.
You know, to make it truly reverse, I would have to reverse the footage of the entire playthrough, which would look really weird.
Yeah.
And I could have done that, but it would have taken more time, and I was just like, this is good enough.
You know what would have been really weird is if you wrote out your full script, but you read all the words in reverse.
Yeah. I thought about doing that, but it wouldn't make any sense at all. And I want it to be at least somewhat comprehensive.
Yeah.
And people are asking, am I ever going to upload the real version or the normal version? Maybe one day, but I'm happy with what I have right now.
One of your subscribers already made an edit of the...
Yeah, they did. You know, I kind of feel like that would be a good game to stream. Like, you and I, if we ever played, like, stream, that would be kind of fun.
It was pretty fun when we played.
Yep. All right, here's the second to last review. Fallout 4. All right, Magical Chicken, do your thing. Oh, by the way, people were saying, don't ever change the Magical Chicken intro. You know, I honestly was going to change it for the Shadow of Mordor review, but I forgot about it. Oops, sorry. I forgot about it, like, right when I was done editing the review itself, and I was like, I'm already done. I'm just going to put in the...
Change it as in, like, redo the audio?
No, redo the whole thing, like a different aesthetic and everything.
Oh, okay.
And I have an idea of what I'd like to do, but people really like this one, so I guess I'll just keep it.
Caution!
You added, like, things on the side for full screen.
It's 4x3.
Yeah, interesting.
It's time for the Fallout 4 review for the PS4. While not my first go-around with Bethesda, this is the first Fallout game in the franchise I've played. And yes, this is certainly a game to add to my I wish I hadn't waited so long to play library, so let's see why. Set in a heavily influenced real-world 1950s atomic age, the year is 2077 in the Boston, Massachusetts region. After you pick your character and define their physical traits, you, your spouse, and your infant son Sean are hurried into an underground vault to bypass the nuclear destruction and fallout that has hit the region. Unbeknownst to them, they are cryogenically frozen and only wait to see a mysterious team kidnap Sean,
You made
kill
your wife
spouse,
look like,
and refreeze your character. You
like
awaken
Lizzie.
sometime later and re-emerge on
No,
the
I
surface.
didn't. No,
only
you
to be
you
welcomed
no,
to a
you
wasteland
can't. That's the
where it's
default
now
look.
up to
Oh,
to
you can't.
investigate Sean's
You
kidnapping.
can't edit your spouse.
This
Nope.
is an
Oh,
open world
interesting.
RPG that mainly
just happened to
focuses
look
on
like your
FPS
wife-
your
gameplay,
real-life
but
wife.
you aren't forced to play this way. First of all, you
I
can
hope
set
not,
the
she
camera to
died.
an awkward third-person viewpoint, something that I just can't get used to. And secondly, guns aren't your only weapons, as melee options are available. That's the beauty of this game. There are so many different ways to play, all thanks to the skill tree, which is actually a pamphlet your character has. This is where you choose how you want to play the game. There are 7 base traits, each one yielding specific abilities, both passive and active. Conveniently labeled special, these traits include strength, perception, endurance, charisma, intellect, agility, and luck. Some are pretty self-explanatory, while others, such as charisma and luck, may be a bit cryptic at first glance. A key defining factor of charisma is how well your character can influence other NPCs in terms of bartering and speech checks, which I'll get into a bit later. Luck is just that, how lucky your character is, with defining factors like how fast your critical meter fills up, or more specific areas like randomly gaining a huge boost of XP for anything you do. Some traits work well with others, and it's so much fun combining complementary
That's
abilities.
a really fun gun.
One of the
It is
biggest
a
game
laser
mechanics is the Vault Tech
machine
assisted
gun?
targeting system,
Like a
or
laser
VATS for
Gatling
short.
gun.
Oh, cool.
By holding down L1, you can slow down time around you and target specific body parts of enemies. Each target will show a percentage of how likely you are to hit that area in relation to your current distance and perception level of your character. Each time you hit an enemy in VATS, your critical meter will fill up, and once full, you can perform a guaranteed critical hit, no matter the current percentage. If you don't want any help, you aren't forced to use VATS, but I think it makes the game more fun, and in some situations is borderline needed if you want to survive, especially when aiming with a controller is not the most comfortable way of playing. Plus, if you're able to take down an enemy with any VAT shot, a slow motion animation will play out of your target being put down, and sometimes
Look at those
explode.
eyeballs.
The map isn't a barren wasteland. Yes, there's destruction all around, but resources can be quite plentiful, unless you're playing on survival mode, but that's beside the point. You can find food, water, medicinal and chemical supplies, weapons, ammunition, and all sorts of quote-unquote junk materials you can break down to help you build other things. See a combination wrench? You can use a small gear inside to act as a general gear you need for weapon modification. Consuming food and water will increase your health, but most will also increase your radiation intake. Speaking of which, health isn't the only thing you need to monitor, as radiation damage can also ruin your day. While certain radiation remedies are available, you can also don specific armor pieces or sets to help reduce radiation damage. You can even find hazmat suits which offer supreme radiation protection, but at the cost of physical damage resistance. NPCs play a huge role in the main objective, but also in all the side quests available. One aspect of NPCs is that a select few can become your companion. You are welcome to explore on your own, but I usually like having a companion with me, as their unique dialogue can enhance the overall experience. Having a companion isn't limited to just having an extra gun and backpack around. You can give them specific weapons to use and armor to wear, and depending on your actions and responses to other NPCs, they will begin to gain or lose affinity with you. If they witness you perform enough actions to their liking, they will begin to like you more and more, and exclusive dialogue conversations will come up. If you're able to increase their affinity to the max level, your character will gain a unique bonus, such as with Piper, her ability lets me gain double XP for every new location I find, and successful speech checks. This is a key area of gameplay that I found to be so fun. When talking with NPCs, you'll get to respond with 4 different speech options. The options are always the same in terms of one is generally optimistic, one is sarcastic or neutral, one will carry the conversation a bit further with details about the topic, or if you just want to be a jerk, there's always the pessimistic option. During specific conversations,
sarcastic
speech checks
is
will
so
show up
fun.
as one or more of the dialogue choices. The color of the speech check can be yellow, orange, or red, which indicates how difficult it will be to be successful with this option. Unless you've leveled up your charisma a good amount, or at least have boosted your charisma through clothing or other means, most speech checks will fail. If you succeed, however, you'll be rewarded with XP, and the
Speech
remaining
check is
conversation
just like
might be
the-
steered in a different
the
direction,
chance,
which can
like it's just like a number chance that you will succeed in.
It's a number chance based on your charisma level.
Right. Okay.
Yes. That can make the dialogue split into a different tree.
Okay.
ultimately lead you to different quest results. I've played this game about 10 times now, and charisma is one of the stats
right
I
there?
level up quickly.
Right there. If I press the sarcastic or what's going on option, it just plays out normally.
Mm.
But these will give me different.
Like yellow is 50-50, you'll pass it. Red is like 25-75.
I don't know the percentage, but it's like the colors don't change even if you upgrade your charisma. It's just red. You basically need level 9 or maxed out charisma to win it.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Before the others,
but it doesn't tell you what level you have
so
to be.
Fun.
No, it's
now,
it's
even
color
though
coordinated.
charisma is a fun
That's how
stat
you
to
can
play
tell.
with, don't neglect stats that actually help you in combat. Weapon and armor modifications are essential to coming out on top in battles. Plus, finding out what you can make with your gear is really fun as well. If you want to become a walking tank, just put on a suit of power armor and go to town with the local super mutants. Careful, you're not actually invincible, and honestly I find it to be more fun to run around without power armor. One combat aspect I found pretty interesting was an enemy could sometimes cripple your limbs if you're hit with a specific attack. One quick dose from a stim pack will make you right as rain, but a crippled arm could mean you could no longer aim a weapon, or a broken leg means you couldn't run away. Don't worry, chum, you can perform the same attacks on your foes, but quick body and headshots are usually the way to go. For a game that was made at the time of this review 9 years ago, the graphics look great with quite a bit of attention to detail. Glitches are present, however, but everything considered, most of them don't play that much of a role in hindering your gameplay, and actually, some can be quite humorous. The game is packed with side quests. Honestly, you could go for days, if not weeks, just doing side quests alone. Ignoring side quests is not suggested, as you'll need a lot of XP to unlock many skills. Side quests aren't the only thing that give you experience, though. As I said before, discovering new locations will net you XP, but also every enemy you kill will do the same, as well as successfully picking locks, hacking computer terminals, or even making any kind of modification to your gear. One of the main quest lines has you rebuilding the community by getting small settlements to join the Minutemen. Once a settlement agrees to join, and as long as you have the resources, you can build it up with various construction fabrications or pieces, where each piece you set down will also give you a small amount of XP. There aren't many things I find at fault with this game. Sure, the graphical glitches can remove your sense of immersiveness, but at least for me, there's not much to complain about. The only major negative experience I had was with the quest glitch. So here, I'm shooting a bunch of enemies with a minigun, but I die soon after. After reloading the most recent save point, the game tells me to get onto this aircraft, which I do. Then it tells me to get onto this aircraft to restart the mission, but it won't let me. I tried approaching it from different angles, but it wouldn't let me begin the mission. This aircraft is supposed to be on the ground for me to begin.
That little
but
icon
for some
is
reason
there
it's
too,
up here.
which makes it
Resetting
really
the
weird.
game allowed me to restart the mission, but from up here, where normally you begin the mission on the ground. This was quite annoying, but thankfully not game-breaking. I've always enjoyed the apocalyptic survival genre, and while the default setting for this game technically isn't survival, I still highly enjoy what the game has to offer. Even after many different playthroughs, there are still abilities I've yet to unlock, and side quests...
Hold on. I remember when we were kids, I would ask you various questions, be like, what if... Like, we'd be watching playing a video game or watching a movie, there's a giant spider or whatever, and I'd be like, what if you saw that in real life? You're just walking in the park, and all of a sudden you saw that. Like, what would you do? So here, this huge scorpion.
I don't know. Probably just run away.
just like, I'm dead.
Yeah.
I've never even attempted, which helps keep my interest in coming back to it. And while I'm not including the paid DLC into the score, nor will I talk about the many mods available, as I mainly just want to focus on the core game, just know they increase the overall gameplay in your favor. I'm super hopeful for Fallout 5 whenever it releases, but for now, I'll still have a great time exploring the Commonwealth again and again. This game gets a 4.75 out of 5 with the title of Epic.
That's an awesome ending.
Yeah. My original idea for the ending, I was going to do that to a rad roach. But I was like, oh, this is perfect. I didn't plan on the death claw being on top of the hill like that. I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
And I had to get it. Alright, we have come to the final review in this live stream series. This is number 185.
Wow.
I appreciate all of you being here for this. If you only made it to one stream, that's awesome. If you did all 12, that's even better.
Remember
this was really cool.
Remember when we like first started this? We were like, wow, these are like so nostalgic to watch.
Uh-huh.
And now this one is like I watched this earlier today.
Just a few hours old.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm glad we're able to end on Sonic Mania, the quote-unquote lost review.
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool. Part 13 for watching top 10s. What do you think?
Wait,
Part 13 for
13?
watching top 10s.
I kind of wanted to do that. Yeah.
Yeah?
Probably next
All
week.
right. We'll do part 13 next weekend. But it will be the top 10s. It won't be like new reviews, of course. So, all right. Let's get on with the final review until I can make enough to do this again. Here we go.
It's time for the Sonic Mania review for the Nintendo Switch.
Ooh, I have an idea.
Retro Sonic game.
When we finish the top 10 videos, what if we do like our own rankings of like the each of the number one games in each of those lists? Like,
Oh, okay.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
Like we could rank. Yeah, we rank all of them.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I think that'd be fun.
Games are super nostalgic for me. While I didn't have much experience playing or watching Sonic the Hedgehog 1 or 2, I remember playing the heck out of Sonic 3 and Knuckles. It wasn't even on the Genesis, but rather on PC. Does this game unlock that same wondrous feeling of speeding my way through level after level? Let's find out. Before you begin the main game, you can choose which character to play as: Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, or Sonic with Tails. With this last option, a second player can play as Tails and tag along with Sonic. It's not designed to be a great co-op experience as the camera will only follow Sonic, but it can still be fun in the right situations. I've beaten the game with every character, and while there are advantages to playing as Tails and Knuckles, a solo run with Sonic is my favorite. Tails has the same storyline as Sonic, and in the beginning of their playthrough, we see them head towards Angel Island. Upon arriving, they quickly come across Robotnik and his robots capturing a jewel from the island. The jewel suddenly activates a mysterious power, and your character ends up on Green Hill Zone from Sonic 1, and your adventure begins. Knuckles has a different perspective of the incident, but ends up at the beginning of Green Hill Zone as well. The point is to guide your character from the far left side of the map to the end of the level on the far right in under 10 minutes, all the while defeating enemies, avoiding traps, and collecting rings. Only those who played at least one of the 5 major 2D Sonic titles from the 90s will you smile with nostalgia. To everyone else, you'll still enjoy the game, but you won't notice the references, such as most of the levels, or zones as they're called, are reimagined from Sonic 1, 2, 3, Sonic & Knuckles, and Sonic CD. Even if you've inspected every inch of the original zones, Mania's versions aren't one-to-one, and it's fun finding out the differences in each. There are a handful of original zones too, which is good as I feel this needed to be a part of the game. Every zone isn't a straight shot to the end, as there are many different optional paths to take, each holding surprises to find. While Sonic and Tails have the same level layout, Tails has more route options as he can temporarily fly and access different areas. Sonic can access some of these areas as well, but he'll usually need assistance via Tails carrying him to these locations. If done correctly, it's possible for Sonic to get to optional routes using his shield abilities, but Tails has the best advantage in reaching these areas. Knuckles can reach some of these routes due to his gliding and climbing abilities and being able to easily knock down breakable walls. In fact, there are a few select routes that only Knuckles can access, and the area itself is designed for Knuckles' gameplay. Don't feel too bad for Sonic. While he may not have easy access to certain areas like the other two, he has his own special techniques Tails and Knuckles can't take advantage of. His native ability is his drop dash. By holding jump in midair, Sonic will charge up and burst forward in his spin dash form when he hits
I
the
almost
ground.
never use
I
that.
couldn't help but feel like I
that
wanted
thing.
his insta-shield ability from
I
Sonic
know it's very
3,
useful,
and
but I just
thankfully
never...
you can change his ability
Yeah.
to this,
Yeah.
but changing abilities is actually an unlockable that I'll talk about later. To add to Sonic's arsenal, as I pointed out earlier, Sonic gains a specific ability depending on the type of shield he obtains. While a bubble shield, fire shield, and electric shield will respectively give all characters the ability to breathe underwater, become immune to fire and magma, and magnetize rings and become invulnerable to electricity, Sonic gains a unique ability the others don't receive. With a bubble shield, Sonic can perform a super bounce, especially effective if using it on an enemy. A fire shield will let Sonic burst forward as a fireball, annihilating enemies in his path, and an electric shield will grant Sonic a lesser double jump. There is the regular shield from Sonic 1, but this doesn't do anything special, and is just a normal shield that prevents one hit. There's a part of me that actually doesn't like to get the regular shield when playing as Sonic, because it stupidly takes away his native ability. Knuckles is honestly the most difficult character to play as because of one detail that might not be too noticeable in the beginning, but if you've played Sonic and Knuckles, you might remember it sooner than later. While Sonic and Tails can jump at the same height as each other, Knuckles' jump is just a bit smaller than the other two. This can make reaching certain areas a chore, especially if you're used to the jump height of the other two. It's not like it's game-breaking, but in certain areas, it can be kind of a pain to get him up to where you want.
Whatever!
As
He
I
was
said,
breathing!
Knuckles can take certain routes the others can't, and actually, one of the entire levels is different for Knuckles. This goes for the boss fight as well. I like this as it broke up the similarities shared between all three characters. Throughout each level are various checkpoints. If you have at least 25 rings and pass through a checkpoint, you can enter a special stage. Here, you must run over all the blue spheres in the stage while avoiding the red ones. If you can manage to do so, you'll be rewarded with a medallion that serves as the basis for unlocking content in the game. The other special stage can be found by finding large gold rings semi-hidden throughout the zones. Once entered, you're brought to an area where the goal is to catch up to a UFO carrying a
I really
emerald.
like these stages.
Yeah.
Special
Me too.
stages can be quite difficult.
They were
but
frustrating
so
at first, but they're
satisfying
really
when
fun.
you
Yeah,
finally
once you
obtain that last emerald.
Figure out how to...
The graphics
do
look
it, yeah.
fantastic. I appreciate the developers went with the retro look instead of modern, which I'm sure older Sonic fans like myself really enjoy. The music, like the reimagined zones, is super nostalgic, however they've been remixed a bit and aren't exactly like their original soundtracks. They still sound great, with Flying Battery Zone Act 1 and Lava Reef Zone Act 2 being some of my favorites.
Yeah, the music in this game is so good. The Studiopolis music is probably some of my favorite in the game.
The boss fights ranged from a bit boring, I'm sad to say, to fairly difficult, with a few of them being quite creative.
I like that
Hydra
one.
City
Although
Act
it's
1
really
boss
easy.
fight was especially fun.
I thought that was so
Available to
cool.
see how
Yeah,
fun
it's like a
sad to say,
reverse
and fairly
of,
difficult, with a few of them being quite creative.
Yeah,
Hydra
this
City
one.
Act
Yeah,
1
it's a
boss fight
reverse
was
of
especially fun.
The original boss
Time
fight
Attack
is so
is
cool.
available to see how fast you can get through an act, as well as a couple local multiplayer options, such as racing through a zone and playing against each other with Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. Sonic Mania oozes nostalgia and grants an exhilarating gameplay experience. It's especially appealing for gamers who have played at least one of the classic Sonic games, but even if you haven't done so, you won't have a problem running around at the speed of sound. Well, you know what I mean. This game gets a 4.25 out of 5 with the title of Awesome.
Is it an obscure game or like a relatively well-known game?
It's pretty well known.
Okay.
I'd say it's pretty well known. Yeah. All right.
Well, we did it.
That was all 185 reviews up to date. Appreciate
Man.
everybody who joined in for at least part of it or the whole thing. I had a lot of fun with it.
Me too.
And we're going to do part 13. It's going to be the top 10s. And we'll do that next week. Just look for the YouTube short announcement. And yeah, that's really all I got.
This has been a fruitful stream.
I'm kind of surprised nobody's got the hint yet.
Usually I just straight up ask you what the next one is, and you tell me, but I don't know. I kind of want it to be a surprise now.
Oh, okay.
Or at least I want to figure out the hint myself.
Yeah, okay. Okay, well, thanks again for coming, guys. Really appreciate it. We'll do the top 10s next week. And until then, have a good night, and we'll see you later.
Bye-bye.